I call the meeting of the San Juan Unified School District Board of Education to order. There are two closed session items on tonight's agenda. Item number 1 is student expulsion in one case pursuant to Education Code Section 48918F. And item 2 is collective bargaining matters, discussion with negotiator Daniel Thigpen, Senior Director, Labor Relations regarding CSEA Chapter 127, General Operations Support, chauffeurs, Teamsters Local Number 150, transportation, supervisors, teachers, and certificated supervisory units, and regarding non-represented groups, management, and confidential units per Government Code Section 54957.6. We do not have any speaker cards on closed session agenda items, and there are no members of the public here for public comment. So we will now move into closed session and we will turn to open session at 6:30. I call the meeting of the San Juan Unified School District Board of Education back to order. Board meetings are being held in person in the boardroom at the district office, and the public is welcome to attend. Thank you to those who have joined us. Pursuant to state and local health guidelines, masks are required to be worn indoors. Individuals attending in person are requested to keep their masks on for the duration of their time at the meeting. Staff has been stationed outside of the boardroom to ensure that all in-person participants are aware of the mask requirement. Individuals who have removed their masks after entering the building have been asked to put their mask back on or leave, and they are refusing to follow the guidelines at this time. Alternatively, the meeting may also be viewed on the district's YouTube channel where it is being live streamed. The meeting is being audio and video recorded, and the recording may capture sounds and images of those attending this meeting. The recording will be posted on the district website. At this time, I invite you to please stand for the presentation of the colors by the Casa Roble Fundamental High School Air Force Junior ROTC. Good evening and welcome. I'm Paula Viescas, Board President, and to my right is Dr. Michael McKibben, Board Vice President. To his right is Ms. Pam Costa and Mr. Saul Hernandez, Board members. To my left is Superintendent Kent Kern, and to his left is Board Administrative Assistant Stephanie Cunningham. Board Clerk Zima Creason is joining us by telephone this evening. Ms. Creason, can you confirm that you can hear us?
Yes, thank you.
Fantastic, and thank you for joining us. Before we begin, I'd like to note that starting with this meeting, as stated on the agenda and district website, we have transitioned to offering those individuals participating remotely an opportunity to provide their comments directly by joining the meeting via computer software or calling in via phone. If you wish to write to the board, you can reach all board members by emailing boardmembers@sanjuan.edu. These are now the two methods that are available to offer a public comment at board meetings. Individuals who wish to offer a comment remotely have been asked to complete a request to speak by 1 p.m. today via the district website at www.sanjuan.edu/board meeting. Those who have requested to offer a comment remotely have been provided with a link to join the meeting via computer software or phone via the Zoom platform. For those who are attending the meeting in person, we ask that you complete a speaker request card available at the staff table over in that corner. And you will be called on at the appropriate time during the agenda. Please note that Board Bylaw 9323 limits visitor comments to 2 minutes per speaker with no more than 30 minutes per single topic. Time will be extended for any speaker who uses an interpreter. Please be aware that public comments, including your name, become part of the record. And if you do need a translator, please, or interpreter, please let us know prior to your public comment. Staff can help here on either side. We are now at item D, approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes for October 26th? Been moved by Ms. Costa. Is there a second? Been seconded by Dr. McKibben. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. Oh. We are now at item E1, High School Student Council reports. And tonight we will hear from student representatives from Del Campo High School and Mesa Verde High School. Welcome, and let's begin with Christian Cabral and Adela Todd from Del Campo.
Members of the board, Mr. McKibben, Superintendent Kern, and Ms. Cunningham. I am Christian Cabral, Del Campo's ASB president.
I'm Adela Todd, Del Campo's ASB vice president.
We are glad to be representing Del Campo High School at the San Juan District office tonight. Thank you for inviting us to speak about the many exciting events taking place on campus.
Recently, we have had many exciting events happen in our sports department. First, we would like to acknowledge our seniors that have signed their letters of intent to the universities this past Wednesday. Jordan Jacobson signed with Sacramento State for baseball. Natalie Hagen signed with Arizona Christian University for softball, and Anna Imperator signed with University of Oregon for soccer. All of our fall sports have just finished up this for the season. Girls tennis had their doubles team make it to semifinals of the NorCal tournament. Girls water polo made it to the section semifinals. Football made it to the first round of playoffs, and cross country made it through subsections into sections. Academically, Del Campo has started up the tutoring program this year with availability before or after school, 4 days a week with content teachers providing the tutoring. We also have Del Campo's Link crew providing lunchtime tutoring on Tuesdays and Thursdays every week. We have also continued our academic intervention period 4 days a week to continue extra support for each class. Finally, we had our PSAT testing day for our sophomores and juniors held on campus, which was a great opportunity for students.
To bring back our Del Campo culture, we have thrown many exciting events so far this year after not being able to do so much after the last year and a half. Starting with our homecoming activities, we held our annual hall celebration with modifying viewing and construction in order to follow COVID-19 guidelines. We also made modifications to our homecoming rally and dance traditions. This year, both our rally and homecoming dance were held outside on the football field and on our tennis courts, and everyone wore their mask in order to participate. For the dance, we also had to either be vaccinated or be tested in the last 72 hours prior to attendance. However, our homecoming football game did not have to be modified, with parents and students being able to sit and watch the game freely without masks. This situation ran into confusion among parents and students, which led to backlash on ASB due to the different limitations. Recently, Kids Helping Kids, a nonprofit organization on campus, put together their annual Sax Got Talent fundraiser, raising over $1,000 for pediatric cancer. Lastly, today, we held our first round of 8th grade visitation tours to help guide possible incoming students around our school. Thank you so much for hosting us today.
It's been an honor to represent Del Campo.
Thank you very much for being here this evening. If you don't mind just hanging out at the podium for a quick second, I'm going to see if my colleagues have any questions or comments for you. And I will be going through member to member just out of respect to our member who's joining on the phone. So Mr. Hernandez, do you have any questions or comments?
Just want to say that several board members were able to, I guess we are the judges for the halls. And we don't announce that too much because they're pretty competitive, but it was absolutely amazing work that all classes did at your campus. And it was great to see our students back in social settings as well as homecoming game, as well as the dance. So it was just great to see, and we appreciate our invitation to be part of that. So thank you.
Yes, and thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Costa? Ms. Creason?
Just appreciate the report and for all that you're doing.
Thank you, Ms. Creason. Dr. McKibben?
Just want to say thanks for inviting us to be part of the homecoming setting and looking at your decorating the various halls and rooms and so forth. And once again, it was absolutely amazing. And it really is amazing the amount of work that the students put in and how close the vote was.
Thank you very much for joining us this evening, and I'll echo my appreciation. It was great since Mr. Hernandez kind of blew our cover. We were the judges. We weren't the only ones, but it was absolutely a joy to see one, the hard work, but two, I know it's hard to, traditions don't just live on when you've had a two-year break. And so it's important that we deliberately carry them on. And it was very exciting to see the student body and the faculty and really the whole community help move those on. So I just want to express my appreciation, and I know everyone had a great time. And I also want to say thanks to the kudos to your peers that are seniors on their signing day, and congratulations to them. That's very exciting. And thank you very much for joining us. I don't have any questions, just my gratitude. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Next up, we will hear from Courtney Andres and Jordan Saltonstall from Mesa Verde. And please correct me if I've mispronounced your name, and I hope you'll also accept my apologies.
It's okay.
Okay.
Good evening, President Velasquez, members of the board, Superintendent Kern, and Ms. Cunningham. I am Courtney Andres.
And I'm Jordan Saltonstall from Mesa Verde High School. Thank you for inviting us to share with you some things happening at our school site.
We are back. The first few weeks were a whirlwind for us at Mesa Verde. Last minute COVID policy changes meant we were working on the fly to change plans and gracefully pivot to meet safety guidelines, but still provide something fun for students. Since we couldn't host a rally, we started the year with a welcome week of COVID-safe lunchtime rally games. Next up was Club Rush, where we had 22 clubs represented, and our homecoming fell early on September 10th. Our homecoming football game was also the Citrus Heights Bowl, and we are thrilled to report that Mesa won. Instead of the traditional homecoming rally and dance, we had a homecoming carnival. Clubs hosted different activity booths, and it was very well attended. Many of us were disappointed we couldn't have the traditional dance and rally at this time, but the carnival was a fun alternative.
Following guidelines, we have been able to have spirit weeks and promote sports events. One of our most popular spirit days was anything but a backpack day, where students were encouraged to use anything but a backpack to haul their stuff around all day. Students showed up with everything from safety cones to strollers to shopping carts. Our most successful football game promotion was when we handed out balloons at lunch with the time and date of the football game written on it. Drama was able to perform and had an outdoor walking ghost tour, where people that were buried at Sylvan Cemetery were researched and students performed spooky stories about them. Tennis and cross country had winning seasons. The JV cross country team made it to sectional finals.
If we can be honest, the transition back has not been easy. The last time the ninth graders had a full year of school was when they were in sixth grade. There are a lot of social and emotional needs that need to be addressed. While we're all excited to be back in person, many of us are struggling with adjusting to COVID policies that don't make sense. We have questions that can't be answered regarding why guidelines are so strict at school, but we go to a football game and there appears to be no restrictions. We can't have indoor rallies with masks on, but we can pack those same stands for a volleyball game. Why are there two bodies governing students from the same campus?
San Juan. San Juan Unified School District prides itself on equity, but inequity has taken the spotlight for us due to district policies. At first, many rules were left to the discretion of administration. Our senior sunrise had to be canceled, other schools hosted theirs. Schools with PTSAs were able to plan and host events that schools without could not. PTSAs from a couple of schools within our own school district got together to plan homecomings before they're allowed to. These groups picked up indoor venues in Placer County, held mask-free events, and allowed guests. We do not have the ability to do this within our school community. Finally, the rules changed. Now we can all plan events like dances. We had our homecoming outdoors with masks and no guests on November 6th. Rallies can be held outside, but not all schools have the facilities to do this. ASB absorbed all the complaints and comparisons to what other schools in the district are doing. We made peace in working with guidelines and inequities. On October 1st, another hurdle was thrown at our way yet again, when the governor announced a vaccine mandate for all students. While this has brought comfort to some, it's brought turmoil to others, bringing division and uncertainty. And we have heard nothing from the district to address this uncertainty.
We deserve equitable policies.
We deserve certainty.
We deserve better.
Okay.
ASB is dedicated to doing what we can to continue to support Mesa Verde students. We were recently granted $2,000 to help improve staff and student culture and relationships. With this, we are currently brainstorming events that will boost morale on campus and are looking forward to a holiday door decorating contest in December where the winning class will have a pizza lunch and other celebrations, and outdoor activities in the spring as the weather warms up.
The start of this year has been crazy to say the least, but we are back and doing our best to create positive experience for our student body and connections within our school community. While the remainder of this year feels uncertain, we are going to continue working hard to restore the Mesa community we once had. On behalf of Mesa Verde High School, we would like to thank the members of the board of allowing us their time this evening.
Thank you. Thank you for your report. Thank you for joining us. Before we move to comments and questions from my colleagues, I want to say thank you as well to the audience for the support of our students. I invite you to make quiet displays of support, such as raising your hands or thumbs up in order to continue so that we can continue the business of our meeting throughout for the rest of the evening. At this point, I will check with my colleagues to see if we have any questions or comments. Mr. Hernandez.
Just want to appreciate your report, appreciate your being so candid, and it's good to hear what our students are thinking and feeling. So thank you so much for the report.
You're welcome.
Ms. Costa.
I would also like to thank you and echo what Mr. Hernandez said. It's really great when students come and share what they're thinking and feeling. So thanks so much.
Ms. Creason.
I want to also say thank you for your report. And if you're up to it, I really would, excuse me for one second. I'm really sorry. That's why I'm not here there tonight. I would really appreciate the opportunity to follow up with you and just have a conversation about some of the issues you have raised. And again, just really appreciate the report. And if that's okay with you, I'll be back in touch and so we can schedule a meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. McKibben.
On the $2,000, what are some of the things that have come out of the brainstorming for this expenditure of that kind of money?
Right now, we have the door decoration. It was just awarded to us through site council.
If you could please approach the mic just to make sure that our individuals participating remotely can hear you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Christina Gary, I'm the activities director. It was just awarded to us through site council. Recently, we have planned holiday door decoration contests for December. And other brainstorms have been like staff student cornhole tournaments, or like we have a really big hill at our school. So like a bowling tournament down the hill. Just really trying to do things where we can get staff and students to partner up and build relationships, and then kind of give incentive for the winning group, be it staff or students, to win something for, the rest of the staff or the rest of the students. So we're at the beginning stages of the planning. So that's where we are.
And how long do you have to spend the money
Till the end of the school year.
in the school year?
Correct.
Thank you both very much for your report. Our student reports really are the best part of our evening. We love hearing from you directly and your experiences. And so I appreciate the candor with which you joined us this evening. Student voice is very important to the board, as I mentioned, and we really are thankful that you're here. You're certainly welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting, but you've all outlined how incredibly busy you are. So we also invite you to go back to those busy lives at this time if you would like to as well.
Thank you.
And thank you again to both of our student groups for joining us. We are now at item E2, Superintendent Staff Reports, Superintendent Kern.
Thank you, President Vasquez, members of the board, community members who are here tonight. I just wanted to give a quick update. It even kind of goes along with what the students said there about the vaccine mandate. I know we'll have some visitor comments on that as well tonight. Since the governor announced the mandate, there has been no further information provided. And so the one thing that we did get clarification on is that the mandate will not take effect until July 1st. I asked some of his staff on 2 different occasions. But there are so many unknown, unanswered questions at this time. So even as I talk with other superintendents, we're all in the same situation, lots of questions, no answers. So until we have more information, it's really difficult to have discussions and provide guidance because, again, this takes effect for next school year. So I'll just share with the community, we will continue to be watching what new information we have. And when the opportunity provides, we'll provide that information to the community.
Thank you, Superintendent Kern. With that, we are now at items E3 through E5. We do not have any speaker cards for board appointed district committees, employee organizations, or other committees at this time. So with that, we are at item E6, closed session and expulsion actions. We have Dr. McKibben filling in as our board clerk this evening. Dr. McKibben.
The board voted 4 ayes and 1 abstention to accept the hearing panel's recommendation for 1 expulsion in case number S19.
Thank you, Dr. McKibben. We are now at item F, visitor comments. We do have speaker cards for visitor comments, and I'd like to remind the public that comments are limited to 2 minutes. The clock here on the screen will count down your time. Under the Ralph M. Brown Act, the board is not allowed to comment on items that are not on the agenda. So we're not ignoring your comments. We just can't respond to any individual comments. The superintendent can refer items to staff who can follow up with you. I want to remind both my colleagues and the public who are here this evening that our board bylaw 9323 limits us to 30 minutes per single topic. So we'll go through the first round and then we'll take a pause at that point to determine whether or not to extend time. In general, I'm going to call the individual who's up next based on sign-in order. Please know that for the most part, there is an interpretation of handwriting. So if I mispronounce your name, it was not intentional in any way. I'll invite the one individual who's up next and then also indicate who's on deck, who should follow next so that you're prepared and can be ready to go. So with that, we will start with our first speaker, who is Nicole Harshbarger, followed by Ariel Walker. Please begin when you're ready.
Awesome. Good evening. I've been a parent of San Juan schools for 11 years and a teacher for 18 years. However, my partnership with San Juan goes all the way back to kindergarten at Carmichael School. I'm homegrown and I love it here. My kids play sports. and they have joined the clubs in their middle and high school. And the thought of not being part of this community that we've built along San Juan seems absolutely unimaginable. But if the mandate does go through and our district decides to compel forward, then we'll be forced to leave. See, I'm allergic to vaccinations. I've been hospitalized twice. I wear a band, but I can't get an exemption because California's made it next to impossible for doctors to write exemptions for vaccinations. And although they claim that there will be an exemption for this COVID shot, we all know that that can change. In 2015, when the personal and religious exemptions were no longer allowed for students to attend school. Currently, I teach with an N95 mask because unvaccinated teachers are under stricter guidelines for exposure. My first graders think it's scary. One even cried for 37 straight days and still I covered it with a cloth mask. Teaching is really hard this year. And with all of these extra requirements for unvaccinated teachers, it even makes it more difficult. I test every week like I've been asked with a nasal swab containing ethyl oxidide, but it gives me a headache for 24 hours. It doesn't matter that Kaiser says I have natural antibodies. If this mandate goes through, unvaccinated children and staff like myself will be forced to take something against their belief or leave the district. The mandate is a black and white answer to a very gray problem. The shot has no medical history, no data for long-term effects, and it doesn't solve the problem. We know that people with COVID shot still get sick. I ask the board that when it comes time that they think outside the box. They be brave and fight for all of us, and they realize the loss that this mandate will cause our community.
Thank you. Next up. Next up, we have Aria Walker, followed by Regina Nelson.
Nelson Mandela said, "The world's problems begin with the belief that some human lives are more valuable than others." If you mandate the COVID vaccine for all staff and students, then you do not value the lives of your staff, nor do you value the lives of your students equally. If you mandate that my son's teacher get the vaccine or lose her job, then her livelihood is not valuable to you. If you mandate that my 2 autistic sons get the vaccine despite understanding their unique body chemistry and that it could in fact endanger their lives, then they are not valuable to you. We are already understaffed. Do you mean you would rather risk losing half of your trusted staff to hire and train new people simply because they have chosen to get a shot that does not prevent illness, nor does it prevent the spread of the virus? Do you truly understand the implications and the impacts on our community if you give them that ultimatum? Parents like myself will be put in a position to pull our kids out of public school, even though the law, they are entitled to a free and appropriate public education. Isn't that discrimination? Discrimination is defined as the unjust and prejudicial treatment of different categories of peoples or things. In this case, vaccinated versus unvaccinated people. I understand the gravity, but this is not 1918. There are alternatives. There's an antiviral drug that's going to go to market soon. There are rapid tests available over the counter. There are antibody tests. This is not the only way. Immunity has already begun. What if someone told you you couldn't get the vaccine? And if you did, you'd lose your job or your child couldn't attend school. How would you feel? This is not about science. This is about philosophy. Since day one of the shutdown, the schools in this country have been inconsistent, in this county have been inconsistent in the handling of this pandemic. No one person, no location, no facility, and nothing is exactly the same. So why the mandate? Is this how you want to serve your community? All humans are unique. Our bodies are unique. Our chemistry is unique. This is not a one size fits all. I ask that you stop.
Thank you. That's the balance of your 2 minutes, ma'am. Ma'am, that is next up. Next up, we have Regina Nelson, followed by Lindy Brasler. And I'd like to remind members of the public that your comments are limited to 2 minutes. Thank you. Regina, Ms. Nelson, please begin when you're ready.
My sons are in the San Juan Unified School District. I'm here to speak against the COVID vaccine mandates in our district. Many kids, including my own, are COVID recovered and have robust immunity. Taking this shot is not only unnecessary, but poses extra threat because of the immunity that they have built. My sons are at much higher risk for vaccine-induced heart problems such as myocarditis or pericarditis than they are from COVID, from which nearly 100% of low-risk kids recover from easily. These shots are approved under emergency use authorization. Pfizer has FDA approval for Comirnaty. However, this is for kids over age 16 only. It is inappropriate for our district to join in requiring mandates for kids when there isn't even FDA approval for their age group, and the FDA-approved shot isn't yet available for distribution in the United States. Each parent is responsible to determine their own child's risk and whether or not they will vaccinate their kids. This shot is too new with too many unknowns to require it for all. We never required the flu shot for school attendance. This shot has turned out to have an even lower success rate than the flu shot, which is why boosters are already necessary just a few months after completing the first few rounds. This shot is new and untested and in years to come may prove to be safe, but we do not yet have that assurance. Do you know that the UK, Hong Kong, and now Taiwan have changed the recommendation for Pfizer shots for young people, only recommending one shot for age 12 to 18 because of heart problems? As more kids are vaccinated, we may find out further issues. It is way too early for a mandate. Please do not make us choose between pulling our kids out of the district or subjecting them to unknown and unnecessary medical risk with this shot. It is yet to be proven that it is necessary for kids under 18 or that the risks outweigh the extremely minor risks of COVID in this age group. You have the power to allow this to remain a parent choice by standing up to the mandates and standing up for our kids' rights. Where there is risk, there must be choice.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Next up, we have Lindy Brasler, followed by Ali Houting.
Hi, I am Lindy Brazier, a concerned parent and raising a second generation benefiting from San Juan Unified School District. 3 girls at 3 different schools. It's been fun. But I come tonight to seek discussion on the topic of the COVID vaccine mandate for our children just to attend school and for our staff to be able to show up to work. No one knew your stance until about 20 minutes ago when you spoke up. We do need to know the policy that you want to putting out there so we can plan accordingly. I am encouraging you to stay in your lane and to continue to provide an awesome educational path for our students. Let us parent as we see fit. My job is to promote health and protect the well-being of our children. Please disregard the governor's mandate as your job is to focus on education. Let me be clear and without any hesitation, we did not start this fight. We didn't ask for this fight. If you implement a policy that is not in the best interest of our children, there's lots of us parents that will be pulling out our kids, and that just makes me sad.
Thank you, Ms. Brasler. Next, we have Ali Houting, followed by Joshua Coleman.
Good evening, board. I've been a student in the San Juan district since 1996. I'm a parent of 3 and have been highly involved in their school for the last 7 years. And furthermore, I've been an employee of the district for over 18 years. I would like to urge you and challenge you to take a stand for the medical autonomy and freedom of your constituents, of the families that you serve. The school board of Calaveras Unified School District voted last week 5-0 to not support, enforce, or comply with these mandates because it's not their place to do so. And I urge you to take a similar stand. Be brave on behalf of all of us here and thousands more. Be brave and stand up against tyrannical government overreach. Do what's right by your students and your staff. Echoing what the last few speakers said, there are hundreds, thousands of students who will be pulled out of this district. Parents will be forced to make a very difficult decision if they have to choose between their child's safety and their own medical autonomy and their public education. And we will be leaving. Furthermore, you have a lot of staff that will be leaving. We are already seeing unprecedented staffing shortages this year. There are challenges at every site and in every department. And if we lose hundreds of highly qualified, trained, educated, and dedicated staff because of an unfair mandate, our district will suffer even further. So please, like I said, I urge you to take a stand, do what's right, and allow each and every parent, each and every family, the freedom to choose and not to be forced into something against their will.
Thank you, Ms. Houghton. Next up, we have Joshua Coleman, followed by Sydney Walker. Mr. Coleman, please begin when you're ready.
Hi there, I'm here in opposition to the vaccine mandates. And, Governor Gavin Newsom's been talking about this, saying, it's normal. It's just like all the other vaccines, measles, mumps, rubella, and polio. I think he's forgotten the intention of the vaccine program for children, as a lot of people have forgotten about the intention of that program. The intention is to keep children safe and protected at their most vulnerable, which for things like measles, mumps, rubella, polio, they are more dangerous to a child when they're younger. Well, COVID-19 is not like that. COVID-19, in fact, you are more vulnerable the older you are. The younger you are, the safer you are, we're finding out. So the death rate for COVID-19 for children 0 to 19 right now in this country is 0.0025%. So more kids die from the flu in this country than from COVID-19, and we're not mandating vaccines for the flu. So yeah, vaccines only last about 5, 7, and 10 years. The polio vaccine lasts about 18 years. So I think some people think that when we get vaccinated as kids, we're getting vaccinated for life. No, it's just about that protection at that young age. By the time you're about 35 years old, about all or almost all of the vaccines you received as a kid, the protection is no longer working. Vaccines don't work like that. You can look at the inserts on the FDA website. So the one thing that we know positively is true is that COVID-19 is not very dangerous for children. But what we don't know is we don't know how dangerous the vaccine is for kids, because the studies just happened and the pharmaceutical companies decided to go ahead and vaccinate the control group after just a few months, which, there's no long-term safety data. And in fact, there never will be any long-term safety data from those studies because they vaccinated the control group after a few months. So let's do what's safe and protect our kids and not give them, not hold them to a mandate.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Next up, we have Sydney Walker, followed by Carly Mergens. Ms. Walker.
Good evening, President Velasquez, Superintendent Kern, and board members. My name is Sydney Walker, and for 27 years, I have been involved in this district as a parent, as a community member, and an employee. As I've worn these different hats, I've seen and experienced the thought and philosophy that one size does not fit all in education. We have many different opportunities for students: RL, open schools, Montessori, fundamental, IB, Waldorf, and independent studies. Our students can also experience this in their classes through differentiated instruction. If one size does not fit all in education, then why does it in health? Parents and employers are asking for the same opportunity to do what is best for their children and what is best for themselves. Please stand up for your employees and students, as other districts have, and say you will not enforce the mandate. How many employees are you willing to lose in a current climate when you have shortages? Every day I see signs as I drive by schools wanting bus drivers, IAs. How many students are you willing to lose in an aging district where you need to keep enrollment up? One size does not fit all. I know what is best for my body. I have antibodies. I have a natural immunity because I've had COVID. Why would I need the vaccine? I don't feel comfortable putting something in my body that a doctor has advised against, but can't write a medical exemption due to how doctors are targeted for doing just that. I too am getting headaches from taking the tests weekly. I had not had headaches until I started taking the tests weekly, and that's what I attribute it to. Please, we ask you to be willing to stand up for your students, to stand up for your employees, and put this on a board agenda so we can have a discussion. I know you might not know much, but we have questions that maybe you could take to other people.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Next up, we have Carly Mergens, followed by Desiree Agar.
My name is Carly Mergens. I'm one of the unified staff, and I'm a mother of two that also go to the district. What a position that you have been put in. What enormous responsibility that has fallen on your shoulders. It's almost unfair, don't you think, that of roughly the 2,450 teachers and 40,000 students, you're held with the responsibility of keeping them safe. As you know, this decision should not be taken lightly. My family and I also understand pressure. We are currently having to choose between a shot that is more dangerous than the virus itself and the possibility of having to leave the district. This controversial mandate will potentially take away their right to be educated publicly among their peers. I have wanted to work for the San Juan district for years now because of the community and the diversity. Both my kids have gone to this school since kindergarten, and it's sad to think that after all these years, we have to leave the district if this mandate is pushed. We will have to leave part of our community. This isn't just my thinking, it's a whole group of people being pushed out. I have done the research, I have read the studies, I have given both viewpoints a fair chance, and I would want this health mandate if it meant something, if there was benefits. However, it doesn't provide immunity, it doesn't stop the spread. There are risks to children's lungs, heart, liver, and future fertility. There hasn't been enough time passed to truly know all the risks of young people and their development. Please take into consideration that even the doctors who have helped create this shot are speaking up against mandating it for everyone, regardless of their individual factors like age or previous infection. If you choose and feel like this shot is benefit for your family, then please indulge, but do not force me to inject my children with something that is so new, so invasive, and so device. As a mother, a San Juan employee, and fellow human, please consider that the students and staff are all trying to choose what's best for their own family. Fact is, you are not doctors and you are not scientists. You are a board of educators who are trying to make a very difficult decision.
Thank you. That's the balance of your time. Thank you. Next up, we have Desiree Avgar, followed by Lisa Carter. Desiree, I apologize if I mispronounced your last name.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. It's Apgar.
Okay, great. Please proceed when you're ready.
So my name is Desiree. I am a mother of 2 boys in the district. I also graduated from the district. My kids are in kindergarten and 2nd grade. So you can see why this is definitely very concerning to me about this COVID vaccine mandate. I'd like to point out a couple of things here. COVID-19 did not kill the 780,102 reported as of November 10th, according to the World Meters Info. The CDC protocol did. The government, right along with the FDA, the NIH, the WHO, and the CDC withheld the right to try. Proven therapeutics like ivermectin and HCQ, coupled with vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, quercetin, just to name a few of them. We would have had 85% fewer deaths if everyone would have just been given early treatment at home versus being told to do nothing and simply wait until they cannot breathe anymore to come into the hospital, which by then, for many of them, was too late. I've lost a lot of family members, including my uncle, in the last week to COVID complications, which if his doctors would have just told him to go into the hospital sooner, this would not have happened to him. So I personally, from this negligent protocol, I believe that this is pure genocide. Please note that Dr. Vladimir Valenko and his team have treated over 8,000 COVID patients with HCQ, ivermectin, vitamin D, vitamin C, quercetin, and hundreds of thousands, and have had a 99% survival rate. It breaks my heart to think about the hundreds of thousands of people who have died cruel deaths and suffering, and many alone because they weren't given the same opportunity. I would hate to see that this continues with our kids, especially these young kids who don't have a high risk of getting this, this virus. This is not a vaccine. Please.
Thank you, Ms. Avgar. That's the balance of your time. Thank you very much. Next up, we have Lisa Carter, followed by Colin Mergens.
My name is Lisa Carter. I'm a wife of 24 years. I have 4 adult children, 4 grandchildren who are under the age of 4. I've researched and gathered information for the last 20 months. I want to thank the board members and everyone here for allowing me to shed some light on some information that I believe is looming over our children and grandchildren today. I'm here not only to fight the good fight for everyone's children who are in school today, but for my grandchildren who will one day attend school. First and foremost, I need everybody to understand here that this vaccine is not a vaccine, it's a gene therapy treatment. And according to the president of Bayer Pharmaceuticals. He went to a World Health Summit on the 13th, on October 24th and 26th. And during his presentation, he said, he said, if we had surveyed 2 years ago in the public, would you be willing to take a gene or cell therapy and inject it into your body? We probably would have had a 95% refusal rate. We all need to wake up. This so-called vaccination is only good for 6 months, and then you need to receive a booster every 6 months. And the minute you're 1 day late on getting a booster, one is considered unvaccinated again. This is going to produce a never-ending cycle. Members of the board, I don't know if you're going to approve this mandate or decline it. And according to the words that are behind you, I see inspire, contribute, succeed, and educate. Nowhere behind you does it say force or mandate. I pray to God that you will make a stand with the parents here tonight, because how will you face them if one of their children is injured or dies because of this jab? Anybody remember the flu vaccine? 40 million people were inoculated, 53 people died. They immediately put a halt on this vaccine 10 weeks into the program. My question is, why hasn't the COVID-19 vaccination program been halted? And how many more people are going to have to die because of this human experiment? How will you live with yourself if you don't fight the good fight with us? Thank you, and may the Lord have.
Thank you, Lisa. Next up, we have Colin Mergens, followed by Holly Carlson on deck. Please begin when you're ready, Colin. Do you mind pressing the mic button? It should be green. One more time. Oh, there we go. You're good to go.
I'm a speech pathologist in the district. Endorsing and enforcing this mandate will take away my ability to make my best medical decisions. COVID cases in high vaccination rate states are rising again. What is going on? In the roundtable with Dr. Erica Pan, she said that getting vaccinated is a way out of the pandemic. And she said a. She didn't say the. And that was very deliberate, because vaccinations are not the way out of the pandemic, are they? Why are we seeing surges? You know that the shot's effectiveness is temporary. It's only lasting 4 to 6 months. I'm sure you're aware the shot does not stop transmission. The director of the CDC once admitted as much. And the reason for these spikes again is because fewer people got the actual virus early on in these high vaccination, strict lockdown states. The number of people with natural immunity is very low. So how do we stop the pandemic? Previous infection is a very good predictor of not getting or spreading the disease. A National Institute of Health study from January found that those who had previous infection have antibody presence for at least 8 months, and they have memory B and T cells that will last even longer. Previously infected are at a very low risk of contracting the virus again, and the CDC acknowledges that no one who has gotten it again and passed it on. This is what contributes to herd immunity, and that is going to help keep cases low and ultimately end the pandemic. Further, have you read that previously infected individuals have a 74% higher risk of adverse effects when they get the shot? Dr. Pan said that in order to get back to normal, we need to, quote, use good judgment and empower ourselves to keep our families safe, end quote. What would be my best decision to keep myself safe then? I'm not likely to pass it on to anybody. Getting the shot would put me at a greater risk of adverse effects. Why would I do that? I'm using my best judgment. Please join the other school districts in our area and write to the governor in opposition of Newsom's mandate.
Thank you, Mr. Mergen. Next up, we have Holly Carlson, followed by Marina Gable.
Hi, my name is Holly Carlson. I've worked for San Juan for 20 years as an instructional assistant 3. I'm currently happy with my job, unvaccinated, but happy to comply with weekly testing and continue to do so. I'm against the mandatory vaccine mandates to employees and especially for any of our children. I want to share 2 personal stories with you. I'm an ovarian cancer survivor, holistically without chemo, on my own. And I'm a 3-year-old grandson who had 2 major open heart surgeries. He will become to San Juan soon. He will not be a candidate. These are 2 prime reasons in my own life why it should be a choice. These mandates will only cause the school district loss of many, many good employees, children, and supportive parents. As you already know, we already struggle with shortages with substitute teachers, instructional assistant, bus drivers. I could go on and on. We all know it. Today, I'm speaking for myself, my many friends and family of San Juan, and our children. We are all ready to not comply with any of these mandates and pull our children out because we're not going to be a part of government state mandate experiment at our own family's expense. Our own families. No, we won't do it. Pushback is real and it's just the start. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carlson. Next up, we have Marina Gable, followed by Christine Isaacson. Ms. Gable, please begin when you're ready.
Hi, did you miss me? I'm back. I just wanted to show a little show and tell, little art project my son made. If you can read this, it says, "I don't want this shot." We were at both protests at the Capitol. It is our right to protect our children. And if we have to do it from you, you guys are going to lose a lot of people. A lot of kids will leave the district. I'm proud to say I took my son out of this district. First, it started with you wouldn't open schools. Then we got to see what you were teaching the kids. That's when I removed my son. Then the masks, which are torture. And now the mandate does not need to happen. It's not helping anybody. It's not saving anybody. 17,000 deaths from the vaccine. 17,000. And you're going to force this on children? I'm a school bus driver. I will reinvent myself. I will find something else to do. Our recall was not successful, but guess what? We can do it again. That legislation hasn't gone through, so we can. And there are people who want to do it, and I will help you. Anybody here? Because it kind of went in waves. It went with, let's get our kids back in school. And then, you know, people are like, oh, kids are back in school, everything's okay. Then the CRT. SEL comes from the CARES Act. This is all money. So what you did was you created the chaos, then you got paid to fix it. Really? So you're going to get paid again to torture our kids again? Our children are not political stepping stools for you. Paula, I know you're going to move up. See those eyebrows.
Thank you, Ms. Gable. Next, we have Christine Isaacson, followed by Chrissy Campbell.
Hi.
Please proceed when you're ready.
My name's Christine Isaacson, and I'm a concerned parent. My daughter is a student at Pasture Middle School, and I feel very strongly against this mandate. I feel it's parents' choice for their kids' health. Please do not enforce this mandate on our children. Everybody's body is different. This should be a parent's choice. We live in the United States of America, home of the free. Freedom meaning our choices for our children. Our children's education is more important than making our kids take a vaccine that is not effective. Please make the right decision for our children of our future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Chrissy Campbell, followed by Serena Herman.
Good evening, board and parents, teachers. I don't have anything prepared, and I've been so impressed by the comments that have come before. I really hope that everything that's been said, that gets internalized. That's real. There are a lot of us who feel this way. I'm a teacher in this district. I've been a parent in this district for 21 years. I've been employed by this district since 2001. I care about my job, but more, I care about my students. I care about my children. Our job is to teach and to educate and to raise up. It is not to medicate. It is not to make decisions for their health. 2 years ago, I received a normal vaccine. Within 3 days, I had a severe vaccine reaction with a permanent disability. I don't tell people, this is the first time I've said anything publicly because it's very private and it's upsetting. But I will not be getting an experimental gene therapy. Call it what it is. It's not a vaccine. This is experimental. It has had severe adverse reactions to many people, and we cannot sweep that under the rug. I don't want to take my children out of this district. We love our schools. We love our teachers. I love my colleagues, but I will not stay as an employee if this mandate goes through. This is severe government overreach. Our governor has no business mandating what I do with my body, my choice. I pray for him. He's having a severe adverse reaction.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Next up, we have Serena Herman, followed by Brenda Pandos.
Hello. I attended this school district growing up, and now I'm proud to say my 3 children do as well. Each of us have had our mandatory shots to be provided a good education while keeping us safe. 19 vaccines to be exact, 19 vaccines for each child that are proven to be safe and effective in preventing the spread of disease. This COVID-19 vaccine is not proven to be safe and effective. This vaccine does not prevent the contraction and spread of the coronavirus. A vaccine is defined as, in the dictionary, a substance used to stimulate the production of antibodies and provide immunity against one or several diseases. The CDC states some people who are fully vaccinated will still get COVID-19. This shot does not provide immunity. It is not a vaccine, it is a shot that was sold to us on lies. We were told to get the shot and be unmasked, yet the vaccinated are still masked. We were told the shot would prevent the contraction and spread of COVID, yet the vaccinated are still contracting and spreading COVID. We were told these shots, only 2, and now it's at 3 for some. We were told this shot would have rare side effects, yet 818,042 lives have suffered according to VAERS. Newsom is trying to mandate this vaccine because he said vaccines work, yet his very own kids are unvaccinated from this shot. It took smallpox 154 years for the vaccine to be developed and approved, 2 decades for polio. Chickenpox, the 1970s all the way to 1995. Hepatitis B took 12 years. But Newsom is telling me I have to inject my children with a shot that started its phase 1 trial just a year and 8 months ago. I stand with 4,000 others tonight telling you we are not ready. We are their parents and this shot should be our choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Herman. Next up, we have Brenda Pandos, and then that is the balance of our first 30 minutes. So we'll take a pause there and reevaluate. Ms. Pandos, please begin when you're ready.
So what I've given you is a report of the deaths that are being covered up with this vaccine. VAERS has published that 726,963 adverse events, including 15,386 deaths as of September 17th, 2021. A CDC fraud expert whistleblower says that that number of deaths is at least 5 times and possibly 10 times higher. Everyone who dies before 2 weeks after the second injection is not considered a vaccine death, which causes the majority of early vaccine deaths to be ignored. Moderna received over 300,000 reports of adverse events in 3 months' time. There are more deaths than for the COVID vaccine than there are all of the FDA-approved vaccines combined. Something else that's very interesting, on Facebook, there was a tsunami of adverse events. A local ABC news station posted a request on Facebook for people to share their stories of unvaccinated loved ones. In 5 days' time, they got over 250,000 people posting comments, but not about unvaccinated loved ones. Oh, no. It was about the vaccinated ones who died shortly after being injected and were disabled for life. This is a disease that's 99.9% survivable, and we should not be injecting it into our children. I strongly say that you need to research this vaccine. I've given you the information for it, and don't do the mandate. And I agree with everyone else, people that said here today. Thank you.
Thank you. At that point, we've reached, we're over our 30-minute limit that is in accordance with our existing bylaws. So I will turn it to my colleagues for any discussion or comments regarding extending the time at this point in time for public comment. In case it's helpful, we have 5 additional in-person and 7 remote comments remaining. I welcome it to my colleagues for discussion. Mr. Hernandez.
I would hope that we continue for that many people. That's.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Ms. Costa. Ms. Creason, any comment?
No, I support continuing public comment.
Dr. McKibben. Okay, we'll go ahead and given the discussion, I will now entertain a motion to suspend the bylaw. Bylaw, just to be clear, is 9323 regarding limitations on visitor comments for the remainder of individuals currently signed up. So I'll make that very clear, currently signed up and on our roster.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second? It's been moved by Mr. Hernandez and seconded by Ms. Costa. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye, that was unanimous.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Creason, we heard you. With that, we are at Lindsay Cash, followed by Jasmina Selin Baba. And I'll remind folks that the 2-minute limitation still exists, and appreciate those comments that have stuck to that 2-minute limit. Please begin when you're ready, Ms. Cash. Oh, yeah, you want it green just to make sure we can hear. There we go. No, one more time. It's green. Okay, you're good to go.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Cash, a concerned parent. The quality and safety of our children's education is of the utmost importance to all of us. I'm not here to argue about the historic advancement in medicine regarding the first mRNA vaccine. My issue has nothing to do with its efficacy or the reduction in severe symptoms for the most vulnerable. I don't need to argue the fact that it only prevents severe symptoms and does not prevent contraction or transmission. I don't care that other vaccines have been required in the past, or need to point out what a disingenuous position that is, or note that the flu shots are not required. I don't feel it's my place to recite statistics about vaccine injury or to make any argument against anyone making the decision to use those products. I shouldn't need to quote the medical professionals that the FDA approval of emergency use that can easily be summed up as not enough data on myocarditis or other long-term risks. I'm here to point out how lucky we are that our children have been relatively safe from COVID, even when they have contracted the virus. I'm here to encourage the board to recognize that it's the right and responsibility of parents and guardians to make the decision on what medical procedure is best for our children. No school board, county health officer, or governor has the responsibility or right to make it for them. These are our children. These are our choices to make. My purpose in coming tonight is to encourage you to disregard the governor's mandate and speak out against it, and help protect the parents' ability to raise our own children. Attempting to hide behind the tyrannous edict of executives and preclude your responsibility as a governing body and claim that you are merely following orders while forcing a medical procedure is not an acceptable defense. There are many students who have enjoyed their experience on campus and are relying on you to do the right thing and allow our children to stay enrolled in your schools and maintain the relationship in the district. We, the parents of San Juan Unified School District students, urge the board to take a stand with us against the COVID vaccine mandate. Your position as elected officials are subject to change. Our roles as parents will never be up for a vote. If changes regarding the vaccine mandate are not implemented, many of us will not comply and will be pulling our children and beginning a new chapter in their education.
Thank you, Ms. Cash. Next up, we have Jasmina Zelenbaba, followed by Cindy Keefe.
Hey, my name is Jasmina Zalembaba, and I'm a parent and a nurse of almost 20 years. I'm also a member of America's Frontline Doctors Citizen Corps. This is organization that's advocating for us for the early treatments that currently has a lawsuit against Kaiser Foundation and their partnership with JFK Kennedy Jr., who's released the book, The Real Anthony Fauci, today. Make sure you get your hands on that and you'll get to know who our leaders are. FDA is a fraud. Anthony Fauci is a fraud. FDA should have never authorized this so-called vaccine. They're gonna be investigated and I hope they pay a little more than just a fine. They've falsified their data. They pretty much broke every law there is in ethics and in science, and they have not followed the science. So even the fact that we're here discussing should not be happening. We should not be at this point. We should not be having vaccination clinics for our children. Our children are not lab rats. I did not have children to watch them suffer. Anthony Fauci experimented on puppies. That's not all he experimented on. Bill Gates is a psychopath. He's at the top of this. He's at the top. A few more minutes. Big pharma and big tech don't put people in front of profits. Well, guess what? We're not gonna be the lab rats. They're not gonna make any profits if we leave.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, we have Cindy Keefe, followed by Luke Mollison. There we go.
There we go. Hi, I'm Cindy Keefe, and I've been in San Juan for 37 years teaching. On February 5th of this year, the Merriam-Webster Dictionary quietly changed the definition of vaccine to include the COVID-19 mRNA injection. It is not like our past vaccines, and we do not know its long-term effects. I will refer to it as a vaccine as I speak tonight, but it is not a true vaccine, and it does not act like one. Since we're thinking about mandating this vaccine for children, it seems important that we might ask what the long-term effects are. There continues to be research on the concerns of the spike protein entering the nuclei, which houses our DNA. As of just 2 weeks ago, researchers believe that once the spike protein enters the nucleus, it inhibits the proper fixing of broken or damaged DNA. Some scientists believe it interferes with how the BRCA1 protein is supposed to be used in fixing DNA damage. Also, they believe that once the spike protein enters the cell nuclei, it interferes with the cell's ability to adapt defenses to new pathogens. Some vaccinated people are claiming that after they receive the vaccine, old injuries become activated again. On November 2nd, Senator Ron Johnson held an expert panel on federal vaccine mandates and vaccine injuries. Kyle Warner was a witness. He claims the same issue. Kyle is a 29-year-old professional mountain biker racer and a 3-time national champion. In June, he received the vaccine to do his part against the fight in COVID, even though he was a young, healthy individual. Today, his career is over. He deals with pericarditis, POTS, and reactive arthritis. Please find his story and listen to it. Please do your own research and listen to those who are testifying against federal vaccine mandates before you make district mandates. And don't believe.
Thank you, Ms. Keefe. That's the balance of your 2 minutes. Balance of your 2 minutes, ma'am. Next up, we will have Luke Mollison, and that is the balance of our in-person comments. After that, we will then move to our remote comments, and we'll have Josh DeLuca up. Mr. Mollison, please begin when you're ready.
Got a green light. All right, my name is Luke Mullison. I've been teaching science in our district for the last 17 years, and I love my job. I really do. I changed my mind about this vaccine. I used to believe in it. Number one, here's some things. A major study published in PubMed.gov concludes that my natural immunity is robust. How can I be a danger to anyone? Why would I need to take the shot? Number two, the CDC acknowledged that the unvaccinated and the vaccinated are equally likely to spread the virus. UC Davis concurs, I should say. Number three, the American Journal of Therapeutics published a recent study concluding that ivermectin is highly effective and safe. When I had COVID, I had trouble breathing. I had blood clots in my lungs. Ivermectin cleared my lungs overnight. Okay, it was a big deal for me. It might have saved my life. The NIH has finally listed it as a therapeutic for treating COVID. All right, why do we need to get a vaccine if ivermectin and other treatments are available? And this vaccine can present a risk of injury. All right, the European Medicines Agency has reported over 1 million adverse reactions from the vaccines. VAERS in the United States reports over 875,000 adverse events with more than 18,000 deaths. I know that not everyone is getting injured by the vaccine. Maybe you guys haven't been injured, but you should be thinking of your fellow man. All right, don't just be thinking of ourselves. All right, and if there's risk, there must be choice. All right, I'm gonna say that one more time. If there is risk, there must be choice. This is human rights right now, okay? 10 seconds left. All right, listen, I usually just like to mind my own business, but thousands of people like me, quiet people, they're standing up.
And that's the end of our in-person comment. So at this time, we're going to move to our remote comment where we have 7 individuals wishing to participate. As we make that transition, I do feel obligated to encourage individuals here and participating remotely to remember that public comments here should not be considered health or medical advice in any way. Ms. Rye, please begin when you're ready.
First, on our remote comments, we have Josh DeLuca, and I do not see Mr. DeLuca joined our Zoom. Mr. DeLuca, if you are on Zoom, we ask you to raise your hand. Seeing no Josh DeLuca joined, we'll move to our next remote commenter, Lisa Pelletier. And I also do not see Lisa joined on Zoom. We'll give it a second. All right, we'll move on to our third remote commenter, Jennifer Caldwell. And Jennifer, I am going to ask you to unmute.
Hello.
When you're ready, Jennifer.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Jennifer Caldwell. I've been an employee of the school district for many years. I work in special education as an IA3, supporting students on the autism spectrum. I am also a concerned parent of 2 students. One attends Will Rogers Middle School and the other Del Campo High School. I love my job and we love this district. But I'm here today to voice my concerns about California's COVID-19 vaccine mandate. I could speak to my concerns about the safety and efficacy of this vaccine, and I could speak to the legality of such a mandate. Some of my peers attending this meeting today have touched on this. Personally, I'm going to appeal to your humanity and hope that you understand that where there is risk, there must be choice. Whether or not to inject your body with something should be a personal medical decision made between a person, their parents, and their physician. This choice should be made without the fear of losing the ability to obtain a quality education and attend school with your peers. And this choice should certainly be made without fear of losing your job, your income, your ability to put food in your children's mouths and keep a roof over their heads. I urge this district to choose not to comply with this mandate. Fight for our freedoms and respect that these are personal.
Thank you, Ms. Caldwell. Next up, we have Jennifer Jeffrey, followed by Ashley Brown. And I know it might take a moment for folks to get their hands for recognition on Zoom, so we'll take a moment. But at this point, if we have Josh DeLuca, Lisa Pelletier, or Jennifer Jeffrey.
This is Jennifer Joffrey.
Wonderful. Please begin when you are ready. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. My name's Jennifer Joffrey. I've been a nurse at San Juan Unified School District for almost a decade. I'm here to urge you to put the topic of COVID-19 vaccine mandates on the next agenda, not just passing it off and saying, oh, it doesn't go in effect till July and we don't know anything. You can take a stand, you can put this on the agenda, and you should. I work at various school sites, and one site alone, we had 100 out of 400 students call out in protest of a potential COVID-19 vaccine mandate, and that was in one day. That's a quarter of our student population at just one site. I'm not sure who's taking the data for the statistics you've been given on how many of our staff members are willing to comply should this mandate be enforced, but I assure you the numbers being reported are grossly inaccurate. I know I have personally never been surveyed or asked, and neither has any coworker I've spoken to. The last I heard, my department was short by somewhere around 10 nurses. We're scrambling and trying to pull from staffing agencies on a daily basis. Many of us are covering multiple caseloads and signs, and I get emails every morning from multiple site admins saying we don't have subs and begging for help covering classes. As many have said, we're already incredibly short-staffed. I promise you, we cannot afford to potentially lose a quarter of our student body. And quite frankly, we can't afford to lose a single staff member on top of the shortage we're already experiencing. The potential loss of these families and employees would be catastrophic. These employees and families are not disposable, and these numbers are nothing to scoff at. I was at a meeting last night with hundreds of parents who are looking for alternatives because we're not taking a stance or giving them answers. And I need answers too. I need to know if you're going to stand up for the rights of myself and our students, or if I need to look for a new job. I'm a mother of two and I have a family to provide for, and I will not comply. My coworkers will not comply, our families will not comply, and we will walk. You are known to be followers, a board that likes to wait and see what everybody else is doing.
Thank you, Ms. Jennifer Jeffrey. Next up, we have Ashley Brown, followed by Brandy Brent. Do we have Ashley Brown with us on the Zoom? Ms. Brown, can you hear us?
Ashley, please go ahead and mute.
Ms. Brown, one more call. This is your time for public comment. You're free to give your 2 minutes if you're with us on Zoom and able to unmute yourself. Okay, we'll try to circle back. We'll go with Brandy Brent, followed by Sarah Larian. Miss
President
Brent.
Viasquez, I am not seeing Brandy Brent on Zoom.
Okay, do we have Sarah Larian?
Yes. Sarah, please go ahead and unmute and begin.
I'm here. My name is Sarah Larian, and I'm a special ed teacher for students with autism. I have taught in the district for almost 15 years. I love my job, my school, my students, and my amazing support staff. It saddens me that I'm asking the board to please consider choice when it comes to students and staff's bodies, and to ask that the topic of the COVID-19 vaccine mandates be added to a future board meeting agenda. For my statement tonight, I'm assuming that the board has started to take an in-depth look into all things vaccines. If not, maybe start here. VAERS and the Harvard study that concluded only 1% of injuries are reported. Vaccine ingredients, how a vaccine is tested versus how medication is tested. Statements about mass vaccinations from doctors such as Vladimir Zelenko and virologist Gert Vandenbosch. Who is liable if you are injured? To answer that last one, the district could be held responsible since the pharmaceutical companies have immunity. My comment is more about the academic harm that the students could face if this mandate goes through. At the last board meeting, the topic of changing times for high schools was discussed. A big part of that discussion was about the bus driver shortage and that some options might not even work because it would require more drivers. I am sure you are aware that we lack subs. I hope that the board does not make a decision that could create more shortages across the district. If this mandate was to go through, my classroom could potentially lose 2 to 3 staff, and that is just one class at one school in the district. What about all the parents that will pull their kids? There was a lot of them at the Capitol yesterday and about a month ago. If there isn't enough staff to keep our schools running efficiently, how will students learn, and why would parents want to keep their kids here? Yesterday, I was short 3 staff members and received no subs. Did my students get the attention that they would get when all staff is present? I'm urging.
Thank you, Ms. Larry, and that's the balance of your 2 minutes. And that was the final speaker card for visitor. Oh, no, Ms. Rye, I'm stand corrected.
Do have Ashley Brown back on
Oh,
the
okay,
line. If we could try to
fantastic.
unmute this time. Ashley, please go ahead and unmute. We have given you permissions.
Miss Brown, are
Hello?
you listening? Can you hear us? Oh, great.
Hi, sorry about that. Okay. My name is Ashley Brown, and I am a proud IA3 for students with autism. My fellow employees and I will possibly be forced against our will to get a shot that doesn't make anyone immune to COVID in order to keep our job. Those who receive the shot can still spread it just the same as those who don't. However, that group doesn't have weekly testing. These weekly tests are exposing us to toxic carcinogens, which are proven to cause cancer. To say I'm feeling completely out of control of my own body and health is an understatement. So much so that the weekly testing continues and the mandate goes through, I will have no personal choice but to quit. We are no longer a safe working space due to the exposure of toxins, as well as the separation and discrimination this is causing, which follows with fear, stress, anxiety, depression, just to name a few. So after being forced against my own will to be exposed to cancerous toxins, feeling broken down, I'm demanded to immediately go into my classroom and teach my students as human rights are being taken away. According to the San Juan Unified Employment page, there are currently 122 job vacancies. So right now, you can't even properly educate or provide enough support for our students. And yet it is still being pushed to mandate the shot and the harassment, knowing you will lose those who are still willing to be part of the backbone of this community and our children's future. Who is going to teach and run these classrooms, offices, cafeteria, transportation, and campus duties? Are you, any of you board members, going to show up and teach our students? Doubtful. We are headed to a huge school and community crisis. So please consider how our schools will run when you take away our freedom of choice, remove your employees' livelihood, and strip your community of nothing. Because if you ask me, what is a community without a strong school?
Thank you, Ms. Brown. That was the final speaker card for visitor comment. We do have another opportunity for visitor comment in section L later in our agenda. Thanks to those who joined us both in person and virtually. We are now at item G, the consent calendar. We do not have any speaker cards on this item. Do any board members wish to remove any items from the consent calendar? Seeing and hearing none. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar at this time? It's been moved by Mr. Hernandez. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Dr. McKibben. I will, for the remainder of the evening, be going through a roll call vote. I was remiss in our first vote, but we could hear and got record of all the votes, but moving forward, it'll be a roll call vote. Mr. Hernandez, Ms. Costa, Ms. Creason.
Aye.
Dr. McKibben, and I vote aye, so that was unanimous. With that, we are at our first business item, I1, Encina Preparatory High School update. Ms. Schnapp. Sorry, we went through that a little bit quickly, so we're going to give Ms. Schnapp a quick moment to come join us.
Good evening, President Vasquez, Superintendent Kern, Ms. Cunningham, and members of the board. Tonight, the superintendent is requesting that you receive a report on Encina Preparatory High School's progress. During the 2021 school year, Encina Preparatory High School went through a redesign process after the decision was made to separate the high school and the middle school. This separation allowed for the Encina team to focus their efforts on students in grades 9 through 12. The Encina team focused their efforts on the redesign process, and the focuses were on the Western Association of School and Colleges recommendations and empathy gathering to inform their design work. The key themes that emerged from the student surveys and empathy gathering completed during the distance learning were focused on the importance of relationships with staff, the need to feel connected with the community, the need for academic and social emotional supports, and the desire to engage in courses of interest, and especially a variety of electives. The staff feedback, some of the key themes that emerged were the need to provide academic and social emotional supports, as well as the importance of building relationships with staff and with students. Joining me tonight is Principal Greta Schultes, who's going to talk us and walk us through what has occurred since that redesign that happened in 2020-21 school year.
Good evening. The Encina design team identified the following areas of focus for the 2021-22 school year. First is a re-envisioning of advocacy to create a greater balance between academics and social emotional learning. In support of this, a design team work group engaged in summer work to create a course that focuses on increasing student success, fostering independence, expanding student voice, creating a respectful school community, and supporting college and career readiness. As part of this course redesign, a research-based curriculum was purchased. Some advocacy teachers were trained in APEX to support credit recovery, and academic supports in ELA and math were intensified. Next, the Encina design team recommended to the leadership team that professional learning for the 2021-22 school year focus on grading practices, using common and formative assessments, and increasing college and career readiness. Work is being done both at the department level and grade level in order to increase alignment as a department and across content areas. Additionally, on pre-service days, all Encina teachers receive training in restorative practices and community circles to expand student voice and strengthen school culture and climate. The redesign process didn't come without challenges. Discussions and planning around bell schedules, facilities, summer moving, and shared facilities went through several planning phases and revisions in order to implement the most successful model. With having a shared facility, start and end times had to be different as well as passing periods and lunches. We currently share our PE facilities, library, black box theater, IYT space, and community-based areas. Lines were painted in different areas to indicate school boundaries and student paths of travel were developed. This means that middle school travels down one main hallway and high school travels down the other main hallway. It does make for crowded hallways, but the teams at both sites have worked hard to support passing periods and all transitions, and I am proud of how the high school students have dealt with the changes. The need to communicate across sites is important, as what is impacting one school can have an effect on the other. The ongoing problem of space is a reality, and we are being very creative as we can in order to accommodate everyone and provide our students with the services they need. Encina has always understood the importance of providing supports for their students and community with the goal of creating wraparound services that are responsive to the needs of our school community. We began our school year with pre-service collaboration, which included a data dive to understand the students that we serve. We utilized the collaborative learning cycle model to engage in inquiry and discussion around student data. And from there, we engaged in conversation around what shifts needed to be made and what supports needed to be put into place. Our learning support team has been working on developing and strengthening our Tier 1 practices, strategically planning for and implementing Tier 2-3 practices, and identifying barriers to learning. Teachers and staff identify students that are in need of Tier 2-3 supports, and the team meets weekly to align supports to student needs. In addition to the LST team, we developed an attendance team. We have made attendance a high priority, and our motto is that if students are here, students can and will learn. And partnering with our district attendance school community worker, our LST and attendance team have been working hard to improve school-wide attendance and to identify and address student and family barriers to attendance. Following COVID safety protocols, we have been able to do home visits and make connections with students and families. We are pleased to now have a full-time SCOE, school-based mental health and wellness clinician, placed at Encina as part of the Sacramento School-Based Mental Health and Wellness Partnership, and feel like this is going to be such a valuable resource for our students. With our ELO funds, we hired 2 school community intervention assistants to provide social emotional supports and family and community engagement, and 2 intervention teachers, 1 for ELA and 1 for math. The academic intervention teachers provide push-in support in the advocacy classes and IM1 classes, and they work with classroom teachers to identify student needs. The SCIAs provide small group SEL supports, work with our LST team to identify and target student and family needs, and build connections between home and school. Building relationships has been all the more important after returning from distance learning. In addition to these supports, we have utilized ELO funds to provide after-school tutoring, utilizing bilingual instructional assistants, IAs, and credentialed teachers. With these resources, we have been able to focus heavily on our English language learners and our students in our Assets after-school program. We have heard positive feedback from our students who are receiving support. The Encina team understands the importance of partnering with our community to provide a safe and secure learning environment and promote a culture of learning and mutual respect. Encina, along with Greer and Katherine Johnson, was awarded a community school grant from the California Department of Education. The grant supports our effort to create a welcoming school environment, conduct listening sessions, engage in home visits, expand opportunities for parent and community engagement, and incorporate service learning and youth partnership. In addition, the grant is designed to mitigate the consequences of COVID-19 with intensive summer learning and enrichment opportunities that focus on social emotional learning and culturally responsive academics. The grant will fund professional development to enhance staff's ability to understand and address the intense social, emotional, and mental health needs of students. Community partners will play a critical role in this project. Encina greatly values our community partners. The various community organizations we partner with help us meet the needs of our students and achieve our goal of being responsive to our community. Point West Rotary has provided several individual teacher grants over the years and support various academic and enrichment opportunities. Organizations such as Improve Your Tomorrow help to improve outcomes for our students of color and low-income students. IYT is present on campus all day, serving both Encina and Katherine Johnson. In addition to providing mentoring, lunchtime activities, conflict resolution support, after-school cooperative activities, IYT provides a safe place for students to engage in positive peer relationships. There is also a parent connection component for students in the program. This year, they will be supporting dual enrollment. We currently have 10 students identified to participate in dual enrollment with IYT support for the spring semester. There will be an Encina teacher facilitating on site, a professor from American River College teaching the 310 College Success course, and IYT providing mentoring and tutoring throughout the course. Knowing how much our students need extracurricular activities, we are excited to offer a variety of athletics, clubs, and lunchtime after-school activities. We offer drama and dance electives, after-school drumline, and we will be starting after-school guitar soon. Unfortunately, we currently don't have band or choir, but because the Encina team feels strongly that our students need greater opportunities to participate in the arts, conversations have started as to how to strengthen and increase visual and performing arts experiences for our students. The goals of our Future Teachers Club, led by Encina teacher Anna Quinones in partnership with Sac State, are for high schoolers to have access to real-world experiences, have a high sense of belonging at school, learn about higher education, and produce diverse educators with a social justice lens. The high schoolers have learned about the importance of diverse representation in curriculum, and they recently took a field trip next door to Greer Elementary to read We Are the Water Protectors in honor of Native American Heritage Month, which was followed by a water conservation activity. Thanks to the FACE department, the first and second grade students were surprised with a copy of the book. As part of the high school redesign process, we will be working with the California State University Sacramento Equity 360 team, led by Dr. Pia Wong, to go through the visioning process. This process is designed to deepen our conversations and identify the work that Encina 912 needs to engage in. The process will include deep data dives and opportunities for staff, student, and community voice, which will include listening sessions and surveys developed by the CSU team in partnership with our site leadership team. The surveys will be designed to gather information around what an Encina student should know and be skilled in at the end of their 4 years, how students would like to learn, and how they feel about their learning, how staff will measure student success, and what actions need to be put in place to ensure student success. Our site is excited to engage in our visionary work and for the next chapter of our redesign. We began working with CSUS this month with our visioning process, and we have several collaborative days set aside for this work. We are currently working with equal opportunity schools to increase access to AP courses for all students and are in the process of developing our equity team to engage in that work. We will continue to build and strengthen our community partnerships and engage in the work called out in our Community Schools Grant. Our site leadership team is committed to strengthening our collaborative and instructional practices and reviewing data along the way to inform our next steps. With the students we serve, we will stay dedicated to providing social emotional learning and supports so that we can remove barriers to learning and graduate students that are college and career ready and able to face the challenges that life can bring. An exciting recent development to our next steps is the submission of a strong workforce grant for a construction pathway. We are confident our grant will be approved and we will be able to begin our new pathway this coming fall. The pathway is currently designed to begin with dual enrollment with Cosumnes River College and has several business partnerships lined up. At this time, I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much to Ms. Schnepp and to Ms. Schultes and the team for this presentation. First, I'm going to do a quick check to see if we have any speaker cards on this item, and we do not. So now I'll turn it to my colleagues for any questions, comments, or further discussion. We will begin with Mr. Hernandez.
I just want to thank you for the report. It was very detailed, and more than anything, I just appreciate the amount of attention to listening to your students. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Costa.
I too appreciate the report, and I am so glad to see the focus on listening to students and student voice. I guess I'm trying to think of a soft way to say this, but I do need to say it. We have been redesigning Encina for so long, both while I've been on the board and prior to that. And I hope this is the last redesign. I think tweaking makes sense. You try something, and if it doesn't work, you find other ways to look at it. But we can't keep redesigning. And the band and music part of that, actually, I was part of a listening circle with Encina students probably more than 6 years ago, where they identified the need for fine arts. So I hope this is it. This is, you're there and you're going to be here for a long time with the Encina students, and that we move forward consistently so that they have what they deserve. I was really excited about the list of community partners. It's impressive, and it should be very supportive of our Encina kids. And I think partnering with CSUS Equity 360 team gives me great hope. So I'm hoping we get a board, just even an update in a few months to hear how things are going. And then next year that we hear we're on our way, we're not visioning, we're moving forward. So thank you.
Ms. Creason.
Yeah, just thank you so much for the report. And I have a lot to say, but I'll highlight one thing so I don't cough all over the place. I was really happy to hear about your dual enrollment and pathway programs and the connection to jobs at the end. That's a huge conversation. I know at a lot of levels in my day job with post-secondary education, there's a real problem with a lot of education and training apprenticeship programs, well, not necessarily apprenticeship, but education and training programs that don't lead to good jobs, where it kind of leaves people hanging. So I love that there's that connectivity so early on in our young folks' lives, and just appreciate the good work you guys are doing and appreciate the report.
Thank you.
Dr. McKibben.
Thank you for the report. I went back and looked at the last report and so forth, and saw that one of my concerns from the last report seems to still be here. And I looked at the number of comments and so forth, and there was, and I'm glad to see the progress related to social emotional learning, the attention in the design team for those sort of things. Talk about greater balance between social emotional learning and academics, but I don't see the balance. Academics still seems to be the child that's not talked about in this report. Reality is that in this design, it seems to be missing. I want to commend you for the adding to the academics, the restorative practices, the attention to electives, and indeed looking at how you're using some of the community groups for some of the academics, such as Improve Your Tomorrow being there all day. I did not know that. That's great. And the tutoring and mentoring they're doing, and indeed hearing about the VPA. I remember that indeed it has been a while that we've talked about having more visual and performing arts at Encina, and I'm glad to hear that you're moving that way, but we've got more to do. I'm also interested in what you talked about, expanded measures and measuring student success. But one of those kinds of measures for student success still has to be academics, still has to be how those students are doing. And we know where Encina ranks related to academic kinds of things. We have to do better. My one question relates to, you talked a bit about electives. What kinds of electives are you talking about? Are those more of the visual and performing arts things, or are those different ways of getting at things like mathematics and science and things like that, and finding that indeed there is, are many ways to get to that, but we must pay attention to academics or all the other kinds of things, as important as they are related to mental health, related to social emotional learning, we still have to, at the bottom line, improve academics there. Can you talk a little bit about some of the ways that may not have been mentioned to here that the design team is looking at issues related to academics?
Can you repeat your question? Just you want a clarification, did you say on? Yeah, so I talked briefly about equal opportunity schools that we're partnering with this year, and that is to increase access to AP courses for all students. And so really a team coming together with EOS to strategize around to open those doors for all students. We're currently in the process of looking at course selections for next year. It is a process, as you know. So it's just in beginning phases right now to look at what courses could be offered next year. Master scheduling is interesting with a smaller size school. So many variables impact the schedule, as well as students who are in need of maybe support classes and students who are in ELD. Lots of our English language learner population has increased quite a bit over the years. With that said, I know both design team and school site leadership team wants to increase opportunities for our students to access a variety of courses. And so definitely right now, as we're heading into that process with CSUS to look at our vision and our work that's going to be outlined, as that'll be conversation that will be on the table. Yes, electives as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I definitely appreciate it. And I did appreciate on slide 8, kind of, I know it's definitely one piece, but the conversation around kind of, the expanded learning opportunities. And I know we've seen a lot of success with other programs that are, there. I love that particularly equal opportunity schools, I know them being there kind of in a more robust way is new. So I appreciate that. And I just, to kind of put it into context, I definitely kind of hear the concerns of sort of redesign after redesign, and kind of where we are. Just to add a little bit of history, right? There was a determination that kind of splitting the campus is in the best interest of the students, and therefore that does require a reexamination of then what is the identity of the school and how can we best meet the needs, continue to try to best meet the needs of the students there. I was curious if you could please expand on kind of the attendance team components. I mean, I'm sure that's in practice, but are there any best practices that you've learned? I think getting the kids to school is a pretty big step in educating them. So I support the efforts there, but I invite you to expand on how it's going or how you anticipate it going, or sharing more on that component.
Sure. So historically, for what I'm gathering, it's my first year at Encina, but working with district attendance support. Historically, we've had attendance concerns over the years. So we had to develop a team, which is new to us. And within that team is a real diverse representation of our staff. So there are teaching staff on the team, there's counselors on the team, mental health workers on the team, school community outreach on the team, and so on and so forth. So one of the big pieces was to begin with parent communication. So it really was important for me to reach out to families. First, that whole reach out, right? That kind of big overall reach out. And then making sure our reach out was translated reach out to make sure that we were accessing all of our families. And then it really became a part of the conversations within the classroom as well. So how does the classroom community support the attendance improvement? So having conversations at the classroom level as well. We have lots of phone calls being made, so individual phone calls. If there's anything I learned working with Benita H in the last several years, it was the importance of that one-on-one phone conversation with a family And so our SCIAs have been utilizing quite a bit of their time to just one-on-one check in with families. So we run our weekly attendance reports, we call, we check in, and it's always about what are the barriers to getting the students here, and what are the barriers to keeping the students here on campus and to keeping them in class, really trying to identify those and strategize around how to best meet those needs. So that's been a big topic of our learning support team. And again, it's a really diversified team. In addition, we just met today to talk about incentives to really motivate kids to come to school and stay at school and participate in their learning throughout the day. And so what that looks like next is conversations that are happening, but really it's about looking in our data, monitoring the students with, that we're trying to target, and to really seeing about what supports they need, what supports do their families need, and what supports do individual students need.
Excellent, thank you. I'm curious, has there been any kind of in-depth student voice examination on kind of the split and how that's going? I know that's not the center of this presentation, but it is kind of part of where the site is right now.
Yeah.
And I'd love for you to take the opportunity to expand a little bit on that.
Great
please.
question. So obviously there was student voice along the journey last year into the split to get input on several components of that. But now becomes that need for us to listen to students again. So with that said, we are working with Nina Mancina to do listening circles with our students. In addition, part of the CSUS detailed plan with the visioning process is to gather student voice in that as well. So CSUS will be supporting us in doing student listening sessions as well, surveying students. We're also working with Innovation Bridge, did I say that right? As well as to do listening sessions with our students. And listening sessions around the split, but also listening sessions in terms of what do they want to see from their education? What do they like about Encina? What do they hope for Encina? And what kind of actions do we need to put in place, after listening to students?
Thank you. And I have one more question and then a comment.
All right.
And I want to admit that I'm completely putting you on the spot right now.
No problem.
But that said, I want to invite you to share kind of from your perspective as a new principal at Encina, what is kind of your top hope of coming out of this redesign process?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Your top hope,
my top hope. I hope that we're responsive, first of all, to what our data tells us. So I really think that going through this process, this visioning process, you really have to stay grounded into your data. You have to look, and data can be anything from anecdotal data, from what people hear and say, and it can be from data that is listening to families, listening to students, various stakeholders. It can be data from raw data, right? Looking at your testing results, but really having all of those components in place so that together we can really use that as an objective third point to have those critical conversations about how to meet the needs of our school. And for me, it's always about keeping the bar high for our kids. I think we serve students that are very resilient in many ways. I know that resiliency is built from high expectations and caring adults. So I know we have a lot of caring adults on campus, and keeping those expectations high for our students, definitely always keeping that at our forefront is going to be something that's really important for our team so that we can really move our students forward. As you know, we serve students that are really coming from high trauma. And so I think it's going to be important for our staff to continue that trauma-informed lens throughout. So again, how do we keep those expectations high, but provide the supports that they need along the journey? I hope I answered your question.
It did. No, I appreciate it a lot. It did answer my question. And I just want to share kind of just speaking on my own behalf. I know that we have a long road to fulfilling our obligation to the students that go to Encina, but I hope you and that your team know that you have my complete confidence and support, and I know together we will get there. So I appreciate all of your efforts and look forward to seeing what comes next. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Seeing no further questions or comments at this time, we thank you very much to the team for the report. And we are now at item I2, the West Region grades 6 through 8 facilities planning. Mr. Camarda.
Just gonna lower this down a tiny bit. Well, thank you and good evening, President Viasquez, members of the board, Superintendent Kern and Ms. Cunningham. Tonight's item is a discussion. We'll be talking tonight a little bit about the 6-8 West Region and our planning focus on the West Region. So I'm going to take us through just a timeline of events that will provide a little bit of a context of why we're talking about 6-8 West Region and why are we focused on planning the West. So we understand the genesis of tonight's meetings really started with our K-5 focus. So I'll get a little bit more into that as I continue to open up and before I pass it off to our demographer. Really started in K-5. We started increases on the west side. You saw that through our enrollment presentation a couple weeks back. And also on top of that, really started with the discussion and the action of separating Encina and creating Katherine Johnson Middle School and the need to have a traditional 6, 8, 9, 12 model. Empowered with that information, on January 26th of 2021, staff presented to the board a workshop, 4 different scenarios for the board to discuss and to ask some questions. The first scenario was to build a brand new middle school on that campus, brand new, entirely separate from the Encina campus. Second scenario was to relocate onto Creekside, the old Creekside property where there's a small middle school, about 9.5 acres. The next one was to dissolve everything in Encina and build a larger arcade and to move kids over to Arden Middle School and to really move those kids into just 2 comprehensive middle schools. And the other one was to separate the middle school from the high school using construction methods, but still having some of those shared facilities. So those are 4 different scenarios we presented to the board. Questions emerged from those discussions from the board, and I'll highlight just 4 of those questions that came from the board. The first one really was, can the community concern of co-location on a particular campus like Encina, really provide for that unique separation and identity in the curriculum focus that President Viasquez just actually spoke about? And could we achieve some reasonable walk distances? So where do the kids actually live that are coming from K-5 and they're going to articulate up to the 6-8 population? Where do they actually live? And is it conducive to actually walking distances for our students that would have to walk to school that are not provided with transportation? And then the third question was, does our long-term demographics support adding additional capacity to the west side of town? And then do we have enough capacity on the west side, the West Region, to accommodate the growth that we know we previously experienced in K through 5 and now is coming through 6 through 8. So after that January board meeting, we took a deeper dive into the West Region's demographics. And we found out really it's not just about Katherine Johnson, it's really about all of the Western region and housing the students that we know are coming through the 6-8, coming through 6-8 through the separation as well. We really took a very comprehensive regional approach to that. To meeting those needs of the 6-8 population that again is projecting that bubble that's coming up through K through 5. So I'll talk a little bit about demographics for a minute, and I just want to revisit that just for a minute. Our past demographic studies helps us inform some of those decisions. Let me talk briefly about who provides us with the support, our demographic support. We have a very highly experienced demographer. They come with a very powerful tools we use. You've seen a lot of the information that they have provided in the past through the demographic studies, through our enrollment reports, and most recently through our board item talking about enrollment throughout the entire district. Since 2006, we've been doing some pretty deep analysis, and we partner with Davis Demographics and assigned to our particular district, because we are a very complicated district, is Mr. David Cates, and he's right behind me here. Mr. Cates. Mr. Cates just celebrated his 29th year with Davis Demographics. He's a founding partner with Davis Demographics. He's a senior planner with Davis. So he comes with a very large breadth of experience when doing demographic analysis for boundary redistricting, for enrollment projecting, and for staffing projections. So since partnering with Mr. Cates and Davis, we've really studied the entire district analysis, but really focused pretty heavily on the Western region because we saw the growth, particular growth, and I'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. The demographic information, along with our master plan, really was the key in determining what our capacity was versus our population growth. And that led us to a couple of different schools. It led us to Dyer Kelly. It led us to Del Paso Manor. It led us to Greer. Those are full site rebuilds, and we increased capacity at all those sites. So I'll give you a couple of different numbers here. At Dyer Kelly, we currently sit at 739 students. Del Paso Manor, 691. Greer, 648. So we've seen increases in those particular schools throughout the year. And additionally, we have added modular classroom wings at a couple of different locations on the west side, including Howe Avenue. Currently sits at about 749 students. Cottage at 480 continues to grow. We continue to see resident student projections increasing. We've increased our capacity at Edison, and now we're increasing our capacity at Star King with 4 additional classrooms that our director, Nick Arps, will be executing through the summer. So leading up to September's board meeting, I presented a historical enrollment actuals, as well as forecasted enrollment growth and declines in very specific geographic locations. And we all understand that the East and the Central districts are declining, and we know that our Western region is growing. Now, Mr. Cates and I sat down today. We looked at our 21-22 data about our declines, and we are seeing the numbers you're going to see tonight are on the higher side because now that we've lost students, our projections are a little bit different. We are still losing East and centrally, but we are not looking at the forecasted growth that we were having when I presented the 2021 data. But that does not take away from the fact that we still have a plan to separate the middle school and make decisions based on that. Really, what that changes is potentially the size of the campuses. So if we're going to talk about rebuilding Arcade, if we're going to talk about actually maybe relocating Catherine Johnson from the Encina campus to the Creekside campus, it really comes about what size, what capacity do we need? And also, we really don't know what kind of rebound we particularly might have. Will we have a rebound of students coming back? And how will our refugee population affect that student growth as well? So that's the fine dance we have to do, not only with the past forecasted information, but the information that is going to be provided by Davis Demographics in the next couple of weeks about where we stand in our new forecast. But again, it doesn't take away the fact that we are separating a middle school and trying to find out the best location and the best location for that school. So I wanted to just talk about on the board cover page of that September 28th meeting, the rationale stated that information that was provided will be the catalyst for future conversations and possible action regarding school configurations, open enrollment, boundary redistricting, Catherine Johnson Middle School. So we're having that discussion tonight. And board members, tonight, I think you'll be presented with additional comprehensive information. Again, with that caveat, our forecasts are lower based on some of the losses of students that we had. You're going to see the 6A data, actual student counts forecast, as well as an exercise to balance potentially our boundaries within the Western region. Before I turn it over to Mr. Cates, I just want to talk about slide 20 just for a moment. I'm not going to go to slide 20. It is in your packet. I'm not going to advance to that. But I just wanted to point out that the boundary exercise is just an exercise. It's just to show the possibilities of what the 6A boundaries could look like, taking into consideration current and proposed middle school boundaries, middle school locations, sorry. What would reasonable walk distances look like? And can we follow some of those natural transfer patterns that we've seen over the years with those attendance matrices that we showed through the enrollment, through that enrollment board item? There are other boundary scenarios that can be presented and fleshed out to the board. If it's your purview for the board to redraw boundaries, we would provide different scenarios for that. We would also take that information back to the community to solicit feedback and adjust accordingly if it's the board's purview and the superintendent's cabinet's purview to visit potential redistricting and balancing some of those boundaries. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. David Cates. He's going to go ahead and talk about the demographic analysis, and then I'll take back over during the slide, finish it out, and then answer any questions that the board may have. So thank you, board members. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Cates. I can control, Mr. Cates can control it. You can just look at it. Yeah. Unless you want.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak with you tonight. I have a series of slides that I would like to walk you through, and there'll be times when you could ask, obviously, me questions. I'll do my best to answer all your questions and concerns. But we're going to look at focusing, as Frank mentioned, on the western side of your district. And let's kind of get started here. And all these maps that we produce, whether you know this or not, we use a sophisticated, what's called a GIS or Geographical Information System. So we map where your students live. We've been doing this for many years. And we have our own methodology on doing forecasting. This is a density map of students on the west side of your district. And it's pretty obvious when you look at the really red hot or yellow hot spots. These are the very dense parts of your district. Some of the most densest parts of your district is in the west. So this kind of demonstrates that. You can see a little bit to the central where it's not quite as red or white hot or yellow in there, but you could see the pockets there where all the highest concentrated number of students are in the district. Now, some of these slides are slides we've already shared with you or Frank mentioned a few months back, but I want to kind of just reacquaint you with the numbers here. And I kind of put some big bold numbers up there, kind of show you. Now, this slide is the historical. These are real numbers. Last 5 years or so, and we've broken your district up into 3 regions. The west, the orange, the green, the central, and the kind of grayish light blue is the east. So you can see that, as Frank mentioned, you've had quite a bit of loss in the central part of the district and maybe about half of that in the east, but look on the west. Now, when you look at the numbers, and one of the things I always want to explain to districts when they look at a district of your size, if you add up the 2 negative numbers on the right, they're almost equal to the positive number on the left. So if you're looking at this district-wide, it would appear your district is flat or not growing much. But when you have to kind of look at the different layers or different regions of your district, it kind of pops out. The West has had a lot of K-5 growth over a 5-year period. Now looking at our forecast, as Frank mentioned, based off of last year's students, we still show declines happening at the elementary level, in the central and east as well. The west, not so much, and that's because the bubble, if you will, we use that term a lot, has been moving through your elementary grades. They're starting now, and that helped. Frank mentioned that when the work that we worked with him on and expanding some of your elementary schools over the last 4 or 5 years has helped you get through that bubble, if you will, of the high number of grades at the elementary on the west side. But now that's starting to decline and they're moving into the middle schools and eventually your high schools. So this will show that. So the next slides are your 6-8 students. So this is what's been happening the last 5 years, also by those 3 regions. And the same kind of trend you see is on the west is where you have the most growth on the west, on the 6-8 student population, again, starting to enter into that area. Now looking over the next 5 years, you can see the west really pop out. This is those larger grade classes coming down the pike on the western part. You see the other 2 regions are declining to some degree, but the west is those students that have been coming through the elementary, expanding your elementary schools to accommodate them. And now what do we do with those up to potentially 600 students on the west side over the next 5 years? That's kind of been the challenge. So just to graphically show you, break it down even further. We're going to be, let's say, focusing just on the west side, looking at your, in this case, your elementary zones. And where there's areas that are still declining. Those are those red arrows pointing down. And the ones, the greener ones, I try to make them in proportion. So you can see the larger numbers, the larger the arrows. Just a quick way to look and see, you kind of have that central corridor of the west is where most of the growth has been happening. And in the south, it's either been flat or a little bit of decline and even up a little bit to the north. So the bulk of the growth is happening or been happening in the kind of the middle part of the western region. Now looking at the forecasts for that same region at the elementary grades, you kind of see a similar thing where you, again, at the top, you see a little bit more decline and at the bottom, but you still got that area in the middle. Not a huge amount of growth, but there's some growth there. But the areas at the bottom, you'll see there's more red. Therefore, if you remember, it was just a little bit of a green. I think it was about 50, net 50 overall in the west. But this is how it breaks out by your elementary zones. Now let's look how those translate into the 6-8 population. So there's really no areas of decline for forecasting in the west over the next 5 years. There's some areas down at the bottom there, Edison's area and Sierra Oaks being fairly flat, but all the other areas you can see some growth happening all across kind of the western part of the district, even top to the central part of it. Now looking here at the next 5 years, we see areas again towards the bottom there, still a little bit of decline with the Sierra Oaks and the Edison, but all the other areas, especially what's now the Encina area, almost 400 students were projecting a growth area in the Star King and even in the Churchill boundary, some growth as well. So again, how do you house these students? If this happening, that's coming down the line, how are you going to house them? That's the main question. So just summing up what we've kind of just discussed, so you realize, again, slightly declining in elementary because those larger grade classes are now entering into the middle schools and the high schools over the next 5 years. How do we manage that? The middle school level, the high schools couldn't support, there's room to support that future growth, but the main concern is the middle schools. So let's kind of look at some trends that have been going on, and I picked 3 particular schools as a case study. Frank mentioned the attendance matrices that we provide you in our reports. They're very big and long, and you could read down these columns to see what's happening and the enrollment of each of the schools. When you read across, you get to see what's happening in the boundary, and you get to see the transfers, the open enrollment patterns going on in your district. So rather than showing you these huge tables, I pulled out a few excerpts from there and did a little bit of visualization to help you kind of see what's going on. So as we know, that Arcade Middle School has no boundary. It's located within Churchill Middle School's boundary. You see it up there in the northern part of the map. But where are the parents choosing to send their children? So we know that it has no boundary, but you can see that 240 are coming from the Churchill Middle School area. It makes sense. The school is located within that boundary. Also, was 197 coming from the Encina area, mostly from the northern part, the part that's closest to Arcade. And you have about 41 coming from the Star King, another adjacent property. So it's not really a surprise, but the parents are choosing in those areas to go to that school. So I just wanted to share those. Those are real numbers. Another example is looking at Arden. Arden does have a boundary. What's interesting when you look on that table on the far right or the upper part there, Arden has 266 students attending that live in that boundary. But down at the very bottom there, you said 838. These are just 6-8 students. That's how many live in that boundary. So there's only, about a third of them choosing to go there. And those others are coming in. You can see they're coming in from other areas. It's gaining from Barrett, and you see Churchill and Edison. I'm not surprised to see multiple large pockets because where Arden is located is kind of more centralized there in the west. So it's touching a lot of other regions. So you get a lot of students coming in. The 838 are coming in from 115 from Star King alone, 244 from Encina Prep. Again, these are parents kind of telling you what they want or where they're going to school. And lastly, in a different kind of way, a Star King. This is just the 6-8 students for Star King, because I know it's a K-8 school. But the upper left corner, you can kind of see my number, says 538 students are, 6-8 students are in its boundary. But when you read all the way down at the bottom, 248, a little less than half of those are going to that school. There's not many transferring in. Essentially, the boundary is too large. There's not enough. You can't support all the students, all the 531 6-8 students living in there. Only about half of them can actually go there. And you can see where they're transferring out to. There's 115 going to Arden. I mean, numbers like 42 to Churchill, 41 to Arcade, and then another 31 to Mission Avenue. So that's where the bulk of the students are transferring out to. And again, it's too large of a boundary to be able to support that many 6-8 students. So what have we learned essentially by looking at the demographics in the West in summation? Based on my forecast from last year, that the Western region, we're projecting to grow almost 3,500 total students. Go from there to 4,115 at the middle school level. So it's another, as I told you before, about 600 more potential students. How do we house them? So it was tasked to us by Frank to look at a potential model. How can this happen? How can we help the district accommodate the potential of that many more 6-8 students? So there were certain criteria that were put in place before I came up with a model. And that was, one, let's look into giving Arcade Middle School an actual boundary. Let's also identify potential best placement for the Katherine Johnson Middle School within the Encina boundary. And as best we can to minimize any disruption or impact on the K-8 sites in this scenario, Edison, Sierra Oaks, and Star King. And then lastly, working with the architects, we had a new capacity information available to us because we have to know how big we can fill these schools or how well we can. So that was kind of all the tools we had to play with. And the results are, as Frank mentioned, this is slide 20. This is an exercise, and I do mark it up there that way. This is not suggesting these should be your future boundaries, but we had to come up with a model and to see if this can work. So the box with the numbers on the left, those are the proposed potential capacities that came up between Frank and your architects. So I use those as our gauge. The black lines are your current attendance zones. And we only changed boundaries in this exercise just for the schools, the middle schools in the West. So we started by making a boundary for Arcade. And whenever doing boundary adjustments, we're always focused on resident population. We understand there's always open enrollment and choice, and of course, but for every district has that in the state. But when you're doing facility planning, you have to make the assumption that if you're going to build a school's boundary, you don't want to build it so it has more residents than it can hold. Because the concept is if everyone in that boundary wants to go to that school, you have to be able to house them. So with that in mind, we will try to do our best, looking about, I don't know how many years, 7 years in advance. So this was the 2027 28 school year. So this is a good 6+ years into the future, essentially when you're kind of hitting a peak, if you will, with your middle school counts. So we went through this with Arcade, looking at the chart there, it's about 850 potential capacity. So we made a boundary and we count up all the students that are in there in the future. It's roughly about that number, it's about 857. Churchill, as you know, it's always been on the very edge of its boundary. It's right there, and then you got this whole vast area away from it that now what we tried to do is make it a more of a school-centric boundary. That's the ideal way to do it, especially for walking students. If you remember what I mentioned before, Star King's boundary is just too large. It can't support the 500+ students in there. So we went with the idea of let's cut it in half. And the resident counts brings it down about 256, which is right about the right amount. And the upper part of it is right there, right next to Churchill. And like I said, it makes Churchill more of a boundary central school. So for walking distances, that's really nice. So it brings Star King down. We looked at placing Johnson Middle School at different sites. We felt that putting it more in the Creekside area in the northern part there was better because you've got to have, for lack of a better term, a school desert there between Arcade and even Encina and Arden. a big vast area with no middle schools physically. So we looked at the population and the walk zones for that area. And with that potential, with about 650 or so students in that green area, we kind of made a mock boundary to see how many that would fill, and that was a good amount. Now, Arden, being your largest potential school, if you just look at your current boundary of Arden, which is it on the right there, it's right on the edge of its boundary, and it can hold a lot more, hundreds more. So it made sense to move it more towards the west side and grabbing the lower part of the Encina boundary. It's closer, the people that live down in that area, it has easier access to Arden, you just go straight across. And it just nicely fits the total number. It might be a little strange looking boundary, but it is your largest school there. So it can accommodate the most. And we did not disrupt Edison Language or Sierra Oaks boundary. They have their same boundaries there and the numbers kind of fit in nicely. So this overall was the task given to us. Like I said, we're not telling you what your boundary should be. This was just a test to see if this can work. It essentially at your peak period with your middle schools, and it does work. So that's what this exercise was for. We also provided, and we're just going to show a few here now, but some walk areas 1.5 miles around each of the sites. This is literally along the streets. I know they have funny shapes, but that's the way it is. Everywhere along that red line is 1.5 miles from the school. So this particular one is the one around Arcade. It also kind of shows you, I mentioned the school-centric boundary. It's not touching part of Churchill. It's almost inevitable that it would, but that it really has the bulk of that red line in its design zone right there. And then we also are showing you with the Johnson 1.5 mile walk zone. It's nice, again, school-centric right there in the area, but it has room within a walking distance to pull students from 1.5 miles from the Arcade boundary or potentially the Arden as well. We have a series of a whole bunch, all the other schools, I think in your packet, we have other walk zones. We're just not presenting it on the screen tonight, but it's there for you to look at if you were just curious. And I'll let Frank take over and talk about the capacity information.
So board members, if we'd wish to pause and ask questions at this point of David or myself, we can do that, or we can continue on. It's up to the purview of the board.
I think we'll keep going.
Keep going? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Camarda.
So you're welcome. Thank you, President Villescaz. So what have we really learned about our capacity? So we know that we have forecasted growth in the West. We've proven that through our enrollment projections, our enrollment study that we did for the board now tonight. We know that we have the capacity to fit about 3,700 students, 6-8 students. With this information, we know we need to add additional seats. Now that the question of how many seats now comes into play based on the new enrollment information that we got on our 2021-22 forecast. So really, it doesn't change the fact that we're looking for a new location for a middle school. It, like I said, it could change what those capacities or what the size of those schools would be. And again, considering how quickly we would have to react if we had a rebound in our projection, or if we had increased levels of the refugee population coming into our district. So how do we house them? So going forward, board members, again, we're address the following areas. Again, we want to address the growth of the West 6A population. We would like to attempt to address the balancing the West 6-8 boundaries if possible. And we'd also like to address selecting the right location for a new middle school in the Western region. We want to make sure that we provide reasonable walk distances for students so they can walk to school. That was a call out from the board of the last presentation that we did. And we really want to achieve really a true separation of Encina with Katherine Johnson's two different identities, focuses, and really give the parents and the students what they're asking for, which is two truly separated schools in that traditional 6, 8, 9, 12 model. And then I'll add one more, really add to the, like Mr. Cates had alluded to, really address the middle school desert that we see between Arcade and Encina, and centrally locate some potentially a new middle school. So board members, what's next? Again, I'd like to continue this discussion. But I would like to let the board know that it's not without its challenges as far as timing is concerned. It takes about 30 to 32 months to build schools. So we are right at about that mark. So we need to have this discussion, talk about it a little bit more with the superintendent, with the board, and to figure out how do we move forward and how quickly we should move forward in being able to, if we project getting open by 2024, when should we make a decision to move forward to talk about the placement, approve the placement of Katherine Johnson, and then also potentially looking at running in parallel, potentially some redistricting and boundary redistricting in that area to balance those out. So let's look at our timelines real quick. Again, those numbers, the 850, 650, are the ones that are in question right now. Again, because of our current forecasts that have declined a little bit, still have growth, but there are some declines in those forecasts. So our timeline to success, we're having that detailed discussion tonight. We understand that there should be a decision made as soon as possible, really at the last responsible moment. That's coming up pretty quickly. And we should be poised and ready for growth to open those schools, I believe, by 2024. And with that, board members, I could take any questions that the board may have. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Camarda, and to the team as well. Appreciate you being here this evening and sticking it out with us. It's been a dynamic meeting for sure. I will now, there are no speaker comments on this item. First, want to ensure, okay, so no public comment on this item. So I'll turn it to my colleagues for questions or comments, and we'll begin with Mr. Hernandez.
Mr. Camarda, thank you for the report. I clearly understand this is not an easy task, but my only question to you, Mr. Camarda, is this: when we discussed this in our facilities meeting, my understanding is that the four proposals that were brought to the facilities committee, they didn't vote on it, but they leaned towards option 4 at the time. Am I correct in that assumption?
You are correct, yes.
So now we're switching from that based on this new data. Is that correct?
There's a lot of different variables, but yes, my recommendation would be different. Looking at the goal 1, which would be the separation right now, the non-physical construction separation. Looking how problematic it has been for that site. Really trying to get a true separation of identity over there has been very problematic. The shared spaces have been problematic. I'm not sure we can achieve exactly what we're looking for without a complete and full rebuild of separating completely. Now, I was in favor of 4, I'll admit that, because it is using additional capacity, but really taking a deep dive into it. The questions that the board had at the last meeting that we had when we presented this information really kind of prompted us to dive deeper into walk distances, where did the high density of students. So it really changed my opinion on that. Could we build more capacity? Could we go with scenario 4 at Encina? Yes, but we would still have maybe some of those logistical challenges that we potentially would have, plus the duration of time it would take to do. Again, very disruptive process. It would be phased construction. This would be a faster method. It would cover that middle school desert that Mr. Cates and myself are talking about. So this accelerates opening potentially a school by 2024 or 2 schools. The other model would be much more disruptive to the entire campus. And as they try to redesign themselves or go through this process to add on a major construction project, really kind of opened my eyes, and I'm not sure that would be the right move for
Mr. Hernandez. If I can add a little bit there too, I think when you look at something through kind of a community or a committee lens, it looks different than when you actually go out at the site and you see the complications of us trying to separate that out on an individual campus. We will never get away from shared facilities in there because there isn't the space to, do additional MP rooms or cafeterias and those types of things. And that's creating a real challenge, I think, for both of those sites to be what they really need to be. I don't know that Encina can ever get to where they want to be. Even around programmatic design, we've had a challenge trying to figure out what's a signature project out there, partially because you've got the 6-8 program. I think if the decision was made that program was on another site, it completely changes the dynamic around what's your signature project as well. And I know there are times where folks have said, well, we should have already had that there. It might have been a mistake to put something there knowing we're going to potentially change the configuration of the school.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification, and I personally agree that that I was never really fond on option 4 because of what we just talked about. But I do remember not objection, but I had a thought of Creekside, and that to me, when we talked about it in facilities, there was a pretty good distance to walk for a majority of our kids, Creekside. And I think you at the time said it was a little over 1.5 miles to get there. Is that correct?
From Encina or
From the Encina area, from the kids that are currently at Catherine Johnson now, if you will, to Creekside. That's my only concern, but I think I do support that. I think they would much rather have their own school than share with a fence and see Encina on the other side of the fence.
Mr. Hernandez, but I think one of the things that when we think about, instead of thinking about the walk zone from Encina to Creekside, we have to look around that area, because right now, the reason I think you see so many students even going from Dyer Kelly to Arcade is because it's a closer walk there. There may even be other students that are going, where if Creekside is more center in that area, we may actually capture even some students who may be going to Arden and going to Arcade may choose to go to that facility because of it being a little bit more centrally located, but we really won't know that. And I think if we were to go through the activity of actually drawing up boundaries, we could even get more data and information from Davis Demographics on where the location of students are, which could be helpful in the future.
Thank you.
It's a great point. Thanks.
I just wanted clarification from what we talked about in the past, and I'm sure that whatever we end up doing, that we're going to go back to facilities and explain that to them.
Yeah, Superintendent Kerr made a great point. It's not about where Catherine Johnson students are now. It's really about where the density is. And if you look at the first slide, you really see that high concentration and density within those heat maps.
Yeah.
So that's where the students reside. But we really took the board's question about walk distances really seriously. And we find that we created some interesting boundaries to where the walk distances could be achievable. It could be reasonable for students to walk.
And last comment, and if my mind is, if I can remember this, the difference from option 4 was it was quite a bit of a cost savings for us. Now we will build a new school. So and that's okay. I'm not throwing rocks at it. But we are talking probably about another $10 or $15 million than what we thought about. Is that?
We're in the ballpark now with about 125 million either way. So Arcade, we're looking at about 65 million. That's at the 850 capacity. That may be decreased now, depending on the new forecasted data. And
it's okay. You don't need to answer that. I just kind of wanted to know that, hey, we are going to spend more money than we kind of thought, but I think it's good money to spend. So
it's about the same. It's about the same range of about 100 to 125 million dollars.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Costa.
From everything I've heard from the stakeholders at Encina and at Catherine Johnson, I really support the idea of moving the school to another location. My only question is, having been the director of Creekside and the number of problems we had in that community in terms of narrow streets, it was difficult to get the buses through, it was difficult to get cars, we didn't have places. So the community kept calling because they were unhappy because we were parking in front of their houses and numerous other problems. Do you see a way to mitigate that? If we had trouble with less than 300 elementary kids, to add 650 middle school kids to that neighborhood, do you see a way to mitigate the issues?
Increasing traffic in neighborhood is always a challenge. It's always concerning for folks that live in the neighborhood. But yes, there are some options there. So if you remember the area, Kent Drive, I think it's Bellport. Kent is on the east side, Bellport's on the west. We believe if we were to build a new campus there, we would build it on the back fields. The current Creekside property or buildings would be demolished. And then we would hopefully try to work very closely with the county to come up with a way that folks could come in either Kent or Bellport and exit out there. And also I think it's Miramar there too. So you'd have 3 new entrances in there. You'd have larger queuing areas, larger drop-off areas, and larger parking areas. That parking lot area is so small. I could see why you'd have that many complaints. It's less than, I don't know, probably 40 spaces there, or even less than 40 spaces. So we would dramatically increase the pickup, drop-off, queuing lanes, and hopefully work on with the county on developing a system to where we can connect Kent through our property onto Bellport, or Bellport onto Kent. So we give more options for parents to drop off students.
And I don't know that this is the time to ask this question. I'll ask it and you guys can tell me yes or no. But in hearing the first report about Encina, and there was discussion about Catherine Johnson and Greer participating in programs with Encina, what would be the impact of moving Catherine Johnson? Would they still be able to participate in the programs, the grants that we've received?
Yeah, I think that's a good question that we need to dig a little bit more into. Already, when I went out there recently, they weren't as cohesive when we separated the schools. So I think we would just have to look at how those supports would need to be provided and what the staffing looks like. I think it kind of reminds me of when we were looking at rebuilding Sylvan at the old Citrus Heights campus, and Kristen was actually the principal back then. And we worked really closely with Kristen and her staff that were a real big part of that in terms of what it was going to look like, what were the supports they needed. So I think that would be part of the plan. So it probably would look different than how we've been doing it for the last number of years, but we still know we need to have those supports built in at wherever those 6-8 students are in that region.
Okay.
It's a
And
good
then
question, just hard to answer right now.
The last question is the impact on adult education programs, moving them from Creekside, where they have had a pretty stable program, to Encina.
Yeah, if moving, building a new 6-8 on the Creekside probably would displace the adult school. The idea would to move it to Encina, move it to a specific locations to where we can actually separate. They occupy about 24 classrooms right now at Creekside. They're not at full capacity now because of the situation that we're in. So they really use about 10 or 12 of those classrooms at the current moment. But we would work very closely with Richard Judge and staff to figure out, and also Encina, Principal Schultz, and figure out what's the right location for them. And also, if you start talking about construction pathway, I mean, the construction pathway and maybe any future career technical opportunities, how would the adult school be able to take advantage maybe during the day for students and then maybe at night for adults? So there may be some cross-pollination of those particular programs investing into career technical for students and for adults. We haven't fully vetted out what the adult school move would look like at Encina, but that would be something we'd work pretty closely on and bring that information to the board.
Ms. Costa, can I add a little bit to that? I think we also can even potentially think a little bit differently in expanding where those programs are offered in those regions to be able to, so let's say we build a new arcade school. Couldn't we offer right there in that region some programs during the evening? So maybe we'd have a center where we'd be offering programs during the daytime, but then also other facilities, utilizing our facilities for more than just the school day. So I think there are those are the opportunities to think about things more creatively as we look to the future.
Okay, thank you.
So I just want to add one more thing. The exciting thing, let's just say if Creekside is an option for us, the exciting thing is really to sit down and Superintendent Kern alluded to this. We worked very extensively with Kristen Schnepp and her staff and used their curriculum and their focus and development on the STEAM education model and really built our facilities around the curriculum. So that's the exciting piece of building a school from the ground up. You really could work with your education side and really build a school that meets the needs of their curriculum. So that's one exciting piece of that.
Thank you. We will now turn to Ms. Creason.
Thank you for the report. There's a lot of information to digest, so I can certainly see myself bugging you in the near future for a follow-up conversation as we work through this. Really excited that new location is back on the table and being discussed again. A couple of my questions are really follow-ups to what my colleagues already shared. Regarding the adult school shift, be really interested to see some community input on that. My immediate thought in hearing that, there's a possibility adult school would shift to Encina is, are we creating the same situation but different? And I don't presume that I know the answer to that. That was just my initial thought is, well, we learned that having those two age groups together, the younger kids with the high school kids, didn't work out. We separated them. So are we doing the same thing, but just with adults with high school kids? So just something to think about, and would like us to get a lot of input before we make any moves there, which I know we will. In the past meeting, and correct me if I got any of it wrong, but I thought one of the major concerns in any major shift and not, staying on the existing Encina campus, but in a new model of it, was bond dollars. There was concern about bond dollar spending. Did something there change, or did I maybe misunderstand?
No, I don't think anything changed. I think it's just shifting the 125 million from one particular location to two locations. Now, we still have the Encina High School signature project to deal with. And we still do have some modernization efforts at Encina. They will go in line, just like all the other high schools that got a high school signature project, and then some minor modifications to Encina. There would not be a full rebuild of Encina. The only change would be shifting the $125 million to two separate locations rather than just the one location.
Got it. Okay. Thanks for that. And then I would say, I think I heard this when Mr. Hernandez was providing his comments in discussion. So this will be going back to facilities committee to provide input and probably bond oversight too, right? I think both of them heard it once, but it would go back to both.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Greason. Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm kind of mumbling.
It would, I wanted to bring it to the board first. I did not want to bring it to the facilities committee without the board seeing the information first, but yes, it will be presented to the facilities committee. Bond oversight committee is a little bit different. Bond oversight committee approves expenses after the fact in accordance with the bond language. So they take a look at that. So they have two different roles. The committee will really help us as far as guiding the board, hearing the data. But I'm going to take this committee through a little bit different of a process. Mr. Arps and I spoke a little bit, but we're really going to go deep on this one. If this is the purview of the board to move on this or these recommendations, they're really going to help us plan these two different schools. We're going to have architects meetings there. We're going to do schematic. We're going to look at schematic plans. We're actually going to have them work on the proposals with us. So we're going to take the facilities committee to a whole nother level. I think that's what they're looking for. I think that it would be exciting for them to really see how we do things from startup and how they can advise the board on our processes and be part of something really big rather than just, kind of minor things or advising the board or seeing, maybe reports from us. I think they'll really be able to dig their teeth in, similar to their facilities handbook and how involved they were with that. But I think this will be on a much grander scale. So yes.
That's awesome. I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No, you're fine. No.
Not being able to see you. I apologize. No, that's wonderful to hear. I think that's a great plan. And I think that there's a lot of talent. I know that, well, we all know that there's a lot of talent in that committee that's ready to do some real work. So that's awesome. I just want to make sure, I just have a little bit of concern because I don't want to overstep public committee. And I want to make sure, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that this already went to the bond oversight committee for input after our first initial discussion. Maybe I misremembered that, but I thought that it was going to both committees and it did end up going to bond oversight. So my only concern is if we sent it to them once before we did anything for input, then and we're changing gears, just would like them to know that and not be surprised by that. But again, maybe I'm misremembering that process.
Yeah, refresh my memory, Nick, did we take it to the bond oversight committee? I thought it was just facilities committee. Yeah. We could take it to both. Yeah, get feedback from both. No problem.
Okay, and if it didn't happen once, then I'm not suggesting we start something new. But if it did, I would just say let them know that the gears have changed. So again, I appreciate all your work and the feedback. I will definitely be in touch as I wrap my head around all these wonderful maps. And I appreciate everyone's work on this. It's a lot. It's a whole lot to put it all together and all the variables to output a product for our families and our students that really meets the changing needs of our communities. And that's a wrap for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Creason. Dr. McKibben.
thank you for doing the deep dive on this and it has caused at least, I think, all of us to think about these things in different ways. I have more questions than I had when we started. So Ms. Costa lied about the number of questions I was going to ask. The first question is on slide 24. I'm looking at that slide. Am I correct that there are only 2 schools in slide 24 that actually have more capacity that could be filled? The rest of them are full? Or am I reading that incorrectly? Slide 24.
Slide 24. Got it. So which one, Dr. McKibben?
Slide
What-
24, looking at the current versus the recommend.
Yeah.
That Arcade and Catherine Johnson look like they have space, but the others don't. Am I correct in reading it that way, or am I reading it incorrectly?
No, the recommendation is that we would increase the capacity at those schools. So when we would build a new school, the capacity would be greater than it currently is at both Arcade and at.
So you look at our current capacity, you look at our forecasted growth and what our potential
But
capacity.
for example, in Arden, it says that currently there's 1051 there.
Yeah.
And
It would
the
remain the
recommend
same.
is 1051.
That's not enrollment, that's capacity.
That's capacity.
Yes.
But it's not what they actually
It's
have
not
right now.
enrollment, it's the number
Okay,
of
so
students.
there is a lot more capacity than I was thinking there was. I appreciate that. That's helpful to me. The second question has to do with, well, it kind of actually goes back to the last agenda item. I'm looking at, for example, those schools that have special academic features such as Edison, such as Winston Churchill, and others. And I was going to use Sylvan as the example of when we changed that school. We also changed the academic feature of the school to STEM and so forth. When we're looking at Catherine Johnson, are we thinking about also changing the special academic features at that school to make it a more attractive school that people will want to come to? And I guess my agenda is, it appears that sometimes residency area is the dog and curriculum is the tail. How do we include in our planning and our forecasting process ways to make sure that special academic features of particularly middle schools are included in our thinking rather than just where people live?
That was the design I was talking about with Sylvan Middle School. It was the opportunity for different curriculum, the STEAM-focused curriculum. We built the school around that curriculum. So that is how the methodology we use as far as what academic design Ms. Schnepp and their team will work on. I don't have that information. I'd focus on the facilities piece of it prior to, look at capacity, look at resident, look at enrollment growth, look at all of that information, leads us to, we're at Catherine Johnson, we're doing the separation. Not only do we have to build capacity regardless of Catherine Johnson, now we have an opportunity to work with the education side and talk about what that curriculum looks like and how do we have a facilities response that mimics that. So I'll use a maker space as an example of using their curriculum and what type of they're going to be instructing on and how do we build a facility to accommodate.
But
that.
as you move forward, do you intend to have the special curriculum features of the school be very much in front and center as part of the processing, or is it mostly based upon where people live?
I think it goes, think about it more like some of the projects we've done at high schools that are based on the needs of the CTE programs at the school. So we built based on what those needs were. I think similarly, Frank and I have talked about when you think about Catherine Johnson herself and her, what she stood for, focus on math, focus on science. So I was going to answer your question right off the bat. Was that going to be a part with just a simple yes? Because it will be. And so what that looks like, I think that's down the road, but the answer is yes, that will be a part of it.
It's both, Dr. McGee. The one part is as we look at forecasted growth, we have to have seats to put the students in. We know that, so we figure that out. It's either with portables and stuff as we've done in the past or building larger capacity schools. But when we start designing something from the ground up, it's absolutely imperative that we work directly with Kristen Schnepp and her team to figure out what that academic focus is going to be. So it goes in parallel with that.
You answered one of my other questions in terms of how long does it take to do it? And you said 32 months, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
How long does it take, for example, when we have a non-boundary school, that if boundaries were added to that, how long does it take to do the work that we have to do to change a non-boundary school to a boundary school in terms of this big picture?
Yeah, well, I don't think we've ever done that.
Yeah.
But I think the response would be, if this was the direction that we would go, we would start having discussions probably this spring, potentially taking action next fall and creating a boundary so that for the 23-24 school year, Arcade could have a boundary and those boundaries in that region could be shifted. So I always say that anything like that would need to be really action and discussion and everything that would need to take place before the open enrollment process. So it would either need to be done sometime next fall. If it wasn't done next fall, then it wouldn't take effect till really 24, 25 when those schools, and that may be something we look at, that say the boundaries really need to kick in at that time. Because the truth of the matter is, if we change the boundaries before then, I'm not sure Arcade could house the additional people there. So.
Okay. This is very exciting stuff. Thank you for that sort of thing. And thank you for listening to my rants and so forth as we go. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We've got seconds. Mr. Hernandez would like to ask one more question.
I have a question. I just want to address my colleague, Dr. McKibben. Do you remember when Dr. Henry and they were voting on the logo when we astronauts was presented in it, and the whole thing about the astronaut was the science and STEM, and so they're, if I remember right, they're clearly already thinking of what that school's going to look like with not only the name but the logo as well. So that's what I remember.
My agenda is to make sure that that didn't get lost.
Right.
And we only thought about demographics. It's nothing.
Thanks to my colleagues for the robust discussion on this topic. And I know there's been a lot of work kind of culminating to this point. I mean, when you start talking about enrollment, you have to consider boundaries. When you start talking about boundaries, you go back to open enrollment and all those kind of things. So these are all sort of tying together. I want to raise, though, just a couple of questions first, and then one concern. And so first off, I mean, the chart noted in slide 24 has the capacity, not the enrollment. But my understanding is right now at Katherine Johnson Middle, in terms of enrollment, we're already at the 550-ish mark, which means we're pretty close to that cap of 650 in terms of a recommendation. So that goes to, my real question is, if we go through this process of moving to Creekside, is there going to be enough room there as we anticipate, to accommodate both the existing population and any future increase in enrollments? Because I'm concerned that given the numbers on the paper right now, we may not.
As it sits today at 542 students.
Yes,
it sits today at 542. As you looked at the exercise and the boundary redistricting, it took into account about 683 students, I believe. So that we would balance that out between all schools. So we look at total capacity of all schools within the West region. So that boundary would house the 683. We'd house 650 of those students. We may have some natural transfers from that. But as Mr. Cates alluded to, you really want to kind of look at what your capacity is according to what your boundaries are and mimic your school sizes to those. We also have the ability to grow if necessary, but the redistricting piece is important, or the boundary piece is important, because it really balances out how many students will live within that particular boundary and how many students may go to those particular schools. And one part of the task that we've given Davis Demographics is really to look at the natural transfer patterns. So you'll see that some of these students in some of these schools, like in Churchill, that are already going to Arcade, it really will just mimic some of the natural transfer patterns that the parents are already choosing, students are already choosing, except Katherine Johnson in that middle section might be just a little bit different.
Thank you. And
yeah.
I kind of assumed, right, when it's hard, no one has a crystal ball, so you can't look ahead. But my assumption, right, is that when we boundary neighboring components, it's kind of like a puzzle, and it'll therefore ideally kind of diffuse and level out in terms of population. So I like to think there is room, but I just wanted to kind of flag that concern with kind of the system that we have right now. I did have the fortune to go out and visit Katherine Johnson Middle and Encina, and just kind of take a look purely from a facilities concern or with a facilities lens rather. And this timeline is concerning only in that it doesn't seem like we can go fast enough, right? And so, and that being said, there's still a lot of questions to consider. And so I want to kind of affirmatively state my support for moving to Creekside or otherwise separating the campuses physically in some capacity. I just, even the most optimistic timeframe has that completing, and we would have to have more discussion, right? Like the decision's not being made right now. So we would need more discussion, more consideration, more input from our stakeholders and our partners. But even then, the most optimistic timeline has an August 2024 move in. And so I guess my request is for consideration of 2 years. To wait is a long time for how things are being managed right now at that site. So my request would be, if this does move forward formally and we continue down this path, I do think we need extra supports for the existing 2 years that the site kind of remains as is. Like you can tell there is a lot of challenges there with kind of appropriately kind of providing even social behavioral services to the students. There's no room there. There's no privacy. There's really everyone's kind of doing the same service provision and discipline stuff and other support all in one in a square area, and they're doing amazing work. And I want to just also take a moment to say thank you to the Katherine Johnson Middle School team and family out there, because they're doing incredible work. But if there's anything we can do to support that for the next 2 years, I think I would like that to happen in tandem with all of this, because it's they're stretched pretty thin there in terms of space, not in terms of people, which is fantastic, but in terms of space, it seems they're bursting at the seams there. I will now stop and ask if you have any reflections or comments in return.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I mean, it opened our eyes to quite a bit of things. We had a very condensed timeline to get Katherine Johnson open for August of this year. So there are some lessons learned there. I mean, just recently, Ms. Chenoweth is working with Mr. Arps as far as reconfiguring the office area, to create some privacy. Ms. Chenoweth, Mr. Arps, and myself walked the campus. Ms. Schnepp's walked the campus. There are some spaces that can be utilized for maybe some of those private areas, but we would work very closely with Shana or Dr. Henry and with Greta and try to figure out what's the best scenario to really coexist as seamless as possible, knowing there's a lot of challenges with this co-location model, but put in some mitigation measures. How much we invest, that really remains to be seen. Do you invest in something like that? And how much do you invest in that? But we really need to listen to our core customer here and figure out where their challenges are and how do we mitigate some of those challenges. So that duly noted, we are starting with the office and we could probably continue on from there. Yeah.
Great. And thank you to the team for that. My concern is I didn't want any future discussions to then say we can't make any changes there now for 2 or 3 years, because that would be concerning to me. Everyone's kind of doing the best they can. And I know everything happened pretty quickly. And given the situation we're in, it's working pretty well, frankly. But I think there's just a couple of other kind of small things that would have a big impact if we were able to support that site in the meantime.
I think there's room for improvement.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much. And again, thanks to the facilities team. I know that we've got a top-notch team and I'm sure you've spent a lot of time out there. So I really do appreciate it. You know, I look forward to further discussion on the boundaries in particular. There's a couple of things, you know, the Arden boundary seemed just a little bit odd to me. And maybe it's just that I feel like most of our sites have kind of a north-south, you know, latitude boundary type thing. And so to have one that kind of goes east to west from the western boundary all the way to the river seems just a little bit odd to me, but that we don't have to solve that right now. In fact, we're not solving that right now. So I look forward to more conversations around that piece down the line. But I hope that the conversation has been sufficient to discern next steps, and I look forward to kind of the rapid development of next steps and seeing this kind of transform and really solve a really huge and growing challenge of our middle school enrollment on the west end. So if there's no further comments or questions, I just want to say one more time, thank you and express my appreciation to the team. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how this develops.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. This was a discussion item and it will come back for action at a future item, at a future meeting rather. With that, we are at item I3, Educator Effectiveness Block Grant. Ms. Schnepp. And Ms. Kukla.
Good evening again. The superintendent is recommending the board discuss the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant Plan. In October of 2021, the state approved grant funding to support professional learning. San Juan's apportionment is $9.4 million, and this is a 5-year grant. It is required to have board approval, so we will be coming back in December for that action item. With me tonight is Director of Professional Learning and Innovation, Nicole Kukral, and she will be talking you guys through the plan, and I'm going to turn it over to her now.
Can we go to the beginning, or do I need to do that? Okay, thank you. Go to the beginning slide. There we go. Perfect. Great. Okay. The purpose of the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant is to really support the needs of our educators, both our certificated staff, including our administrators, and also our classified staff. When the legislature approved this funding, there were 10 allowable uses of the funds, which you can see here. As stated earlier, all of these really relate again to the support of our educators so that they can continue to provide meaningful supports to students. In determining the ways that we might allocate the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant funds, we really wanted to start by thinking about and reflecting on the ELO plan, which has been previously board approved, has gone through extensive public review, and is of course driving much of our work this year. While the ELO plan addresses several different areas, the area where we think that the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant can really hone in and enhance our work is around training for school staff on strategies. So we're going to dive a little deeper into that. When determining how we might build on the ELO plan, we really were thinking about two strategies. Number one, we wanted to continue existing actions that had funding that was going to end. So for example, in our current ELO plan, we have a couple of actions, including our IA professional learning series and the additional funding that supports our System for Professional Growth and our Center for Teacher Support Teams. The funding through the ELO plan is allocated for those two actions through the 22-23 school year. The Educator Effectiveness Block Grant funds allows us to extend that funding through 25-26. Our second strategy was to gather feedback and input from a variety of departments, including our labor partners, and really asking where we can use funds to enhance and expand the current work that they're already doing. For example, providing funds for our special education and our equity departments allow those teams to offer these opportunities to more educators or to offer new options that enhance what they're already providing. In the attachment to the presentation, you'll see a list of proposed actions and the connecting expenditures. But we do want to go over a few examples of the kinds of actions that you might anticipate as we begin to use these funds. There are a few key areas where we're really planning some actions. For example, in the area of supporting continuous learning for all of our staff, these funds allow us to really provide targeted professional learning for our administrators. They also allow us to do things like support our early childhood education team as they learn more about trauma-informed practices in their classrooms. These funds will also allow us to engage in actions that support our educators in addressing really targeted needs for some of our key student groups. For example, being able to support work around universal design for learning will allow us to make curriculum and instruction accessible for all of our students, but especially those students with disabilities. And these funds will also allow us to continue to enrich and expand our offerings around academic language development for our English learners. Finally, we really do want to use these funds also to continue the ongoing support for our curriculum, especially new curriculum as it gets adopted and implemented in classrooms. Specifically, these funds will also address the implementation of the new graduation requirement for ethnic studies, which will begin in the 25-26 school year. So we can use these funds to support that process and ensure a smooth transition over the next few years. In terms of next steps, this item will come again to you in the December board meeting for action. We don't intend to begin anything right now. I think it's really important to understand that. Instead, in the spring, we will be working with departments to develop more detailed plans around their use of these funds. And then, of course, we may see some of this work beginning in the summer, but really the bulk of it will begin in the fall. And at this time, President Viescas, I'm open to any questions that the board may have.
Thank you for the presentation. We do not have any speaker comments on this item. So I will turn to my colleagues for comments and questions at this time. Mr. Hernandez, Ms. Costa.
I just want to say hats off to our staff. To think that you got this at the end of October and took it to curriculum and standards before it had even gone to cabinet and said, this is a draft, and then pulled this whole thing together is really just magnificent. And I just want to say thanks. I'm really grateful for the funding because it does allow for continuation over a longer period of time. And the professional development for our staff, I think, is critical for all of our staff. But I'm really grateful, even more so, that you're not going to rush into this because I think people are on such overload right now. They don't need something else. So the fact that the money can be used over time and in a thoughtful way, I think is really going to be beneficial to the district. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Creason.
Thank you for the report. And I echo Member Costa's comments too. Just glad that we don't have to rush another source of funding. So I'll wrap it up now. I'm starting to cough again, but thank you for the report. And thank you for there's so much to do. There's just so much to be done and so many moving pieces and moving parts. And I'm just always so impressed by how responsive our team is, connecting the dots and getting all the resources that we can to support our school community. So I continue to be in awe of all you do every day. So thank you.
Dr. McKibben.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. I appreciate you mentioning the graduation requirements because we have to remember that we have to get back to that and so forth. Besides the ethnic studies course, one of the things that I remember from my time at curriculum instruction and meeting were the most fun were the new courses that were coming in. Will there be opportunities for this funding to be used for teachers that provide ideas for new courses and things like that?
Certainly we could use it for that. I know that we kept the plan purposefully broad so that we could really be responsive to the needs that arise as our educators and staff come to us with new ideas and surface needs that come up. So I would say absolutely within this funding, if the need arises for us to bring people together to write additional courses, we certainly could do that.
Yeah, one of the things that, and this is a very low end study, in talking to teachers, many of them don't know that they could provide new courses and that sort of thing. So one of the things that we may want to think about is how do we let teachers know that this is an opportunity?
I'm here. I'm sorry.
All good. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So I don't know if you have any comment on that, but I think that that's one of the things where I think we could approve, at least by my very low end study that we could.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Dr. McKibben. I do, as I've been reflecting on the fact that like our course deadline for new course requests is coming up. I have been wondering how we can get the word out a little bit better. And I think that there are a number of ways, certainly working with our communications department on that, working with department chairs on that. I think we can certainly come up with some strategies to ensure that we're more widely communicating the opportunity.
Thank you. Good.
Sure.
My last question relates to slide 8, and it mentions external partners in there. Have we have any thoughts about what we mean by external partners, and what are your thoughts on that one?
Again, I think this is an area where we could really be supporting our administrators, and I would work with Kristen and Amberly to identify some really relevant speakers. I can give you an example this year. I know Amberly and the elementary team has been working in receiving professional learning from Doug Fisher and Nancy Fry on re-engaging students and staff into in-person learning. So there are a lot of opportunities there. I think, again, this is an area where we'd want to be really responsive to the needs that are being surfaced over time and ensure that we're connecting with external partners that meet those specific needs.
Thank you. Thank you very much for
You're
this, and good luck.
Thank you
It's a
so
lot.
much. Yeah, yes, thank you.
Ms. Creason, are you with us? Okay, we'll keep trying to reconnect there. Thank you for the presentation and for the quick work on this. Ms. Creason?
Yes, I'm here. It
Welcome
keeps
back.
going and clicking off. Thank you. It keeps clicking off after a couple of seconds. So I'd say if it keeps doing that, I don't want to be disruptive.
Well,
I
we'll
could sit there and sound
just
confused.
call back in and it's fine and join back into the meeting.
Okay.
You're all good.
Right.
Just one thing I noted, and first I just want to say in particular, I love throughout this, it accommodates and considers certificated and classified staff together. So I really, really appreciate that. I know it's taken some work to get to where we kind of just normally do that, but I appreciate the commitment to doing that. I appreciated in particular the compensating both certificated and classified staff and the learning around trauma-informed practices. I was really excited to see that. I mean, I think we had a pretty vast need for that pre-COVID, and now post-COVID, I just think it's like universally a necessary tool to have. So I really, really appreciated seeing that. One thing that I noted, and I would appreciate, I'm going to tell you my assumption and then you can tell me if it's wrong, which is that in here, there's a lot of really wonderful expenditures, but there's not actually expenditures on brand new people. Is that because the grant doesn't allow it, or is that because it is limited term funds?
Because did you say, I missed part of it, but were you saying because there weren't people attached to?
Correct. So
Yeah.
it's all appropriate, I think, investments in professional learning, development, skill set development, etc., but not actually new positions. And I'm
Right.
wondering, is that because of the limitations of the grant, the limitations of kind of how the grant expenditures work, which is that we have 5 years to spend it, or both, or none?
I mean, I think all of those factors, President Villescaz, are relevant to the decision making. Also, the fact that we really have we had a very limited amount of time to sort of allocate these expenditures and kind of think about where they might fit. We really we wanted to keep it sort of broad so that we're not discounting the idea of people necessarily, but we want to make sure that if we are choosing to move forward with additional positions, that we're doing that really thoughtfully and really making sure that we are addressing specific needs that arise. And we didn't want to just rush into that decision with just a couple weeks time, if that makes sense. And
That
commit ourselves
completely
to that.
makes total sense. I just know looking at these, and in particular when we're looking at one-time dollars, they're one-time dollars. And I guess especially when it's specific grants like this, I'm always cautious in looking to make sure that we're not spending it on people because we're too scared of 3 or 5 years out. Like I'd rather bring in the people now. We of course have a bunch of challenges, but bring folks in now and then fight to be able to keep them than, not engage in those opportunities where possible. That being said, I think these are wonderful and completely appropriate investments. And I'm really excited to see where this goes. So thank you very much
Thank you so
for the
much.
report. I don't see any further comments or questions at this time. So it was a discussion item and it will come back for action at our December meeting.
It does need to be on 2.
We'll put it appropriately.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
We are now at item I4, Choices Charter School, ongoing salary schedule adjustment and one-time off-schedule payment. Mr. Ginter.
Good evening, President Fiasco, members of the board, Superintendent Kerr, and Ms. Rue, or excuse me, Ms. Cunningham. I come forward tonight with the superintendent's recommendation that the board discuss the ongoing salary schedule adjustment and one-time off-schedule payment for San Juan Choices Charter. As follows, there'll be looking for a 3.55% increase to the base salaries as of July 1st, 2021. There's also a one-time off-schedule payment for employees that were employed as of July 1st, 2021 and employed at least through November 1st, 2021 with a 3.5% one-time off-schedule payment. And if those employees were not part of a base salary schedule, it will be based on their wages or stipend that they have. Choices follows kind of along with what the district's recommendation was. You as a board approved a similar schedule payment for San Juan District back in June, and that's what Choices is asking for now. There's financials attached to this that give you information about Choices fiscal responsibility around this area. And we also have Mr. Tony Odo, who's the director of Choices Charter, here to answer any questions that you might have on this topic. And we will bring it back for you in December for approvals.
Thank you, Mr. Ginter. Thank you as well, Mr. Odo, for hanging out with us. We do not have any speaker cards on this item, so now I'll turn it to my colleagues for any questions or comments. Although it occurred to me, did you have anything to add, Mr. Odo, or are we good?
No.
Okay.
No, we're good.
Do any of my colleagues have comments or questions at this time? Seeing none from Mr. Hernandez or Ms. Costa. Ms. Creason?
No, thank you.
Dr. McKibben? I also do not have any comments or questions at this time. So thank you very much. Good to see you. Appreciate you joining us, other than to express my gratitude for.
Happy 30th anniversary tonight, Tony. You got to stick around for this.
Oh my goodness.
I can't think of a better group
Please,
of people to spend it with.
that there's a request for it to be considered for consent if appropriate. I don't see or hear any objections. So staff will take that into consideration. My condolences to you and your wife, sir. Please go home. And congratulations. Okay, this was a discussion item and it will come back for action as discussed. We are at item I5, setting the annual organizational meeting. This is an action item to set the date and time for the board's annual organizational meeting, where we will elect our annual officers for the coming year and consider other annual items. We do not have any speaker cards on this item. Do my colleagues have any comments or questions at this time? Seeing none from those at the dais. Ms. Creason, any comments or questions?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to set Tuesday, December 14th at 6:30 p.m. as the date and time for the annual organizational meeting?
So moved.
It's been moved by Ms. Costa. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Ms. Creason. We will do a roll call vote. Mr. Hernandez.
Yes.
Ms. Costa.
Aye.
Ms. Creason.
Aye.
Dr. McKibben. I vote aye, so that was unanimous. We are at item I6 for districting timelines. Superintendent Kern.
Thank you, President Vazquez, members of the board, community members who are listening. We bring to you tonight some information, just a quick item, that we will be needing to go through the redistricting process from the maps that we had adopted earlier this year and that the board approved at the beginning of August. Previously, we were using the 2010 census data to draw those maps. And when we received the new census data, the district increased in population by almost 31,000 total individuals. Trustee area number 1 increased by over 18%, trustee area 2 by over 17, trustee area 3 by 10, and then the other 4, 5, 6, and 7 were somewhere between 5.1 and 5.7. So what that means is that trustee area 1, 2, and probably 3 will likely have to shrink so that the average number of individuals, so that those maps will actually get a little smaller. Trustee areas 4, 5, 6, and 7 may need to grow a little bit. Probably really keeping the basis of our maps that we went through because we got a lot of input. So likely what we'll do is we'll still use trustee area map 7.3 as our basis. And then the demographers, based on the information they have, will balance out the area so that we have the correct variance. The variance we had before was within the allowable. I think it was less than 5%, went to over 11.3%. So we will be bringing this back in probably from a presentation from the demographer in December. And then again, with some other additional meetings in the following months so that we can take action, I think sometimes in late January, or it will be early February. So that's it.
Thank you, Superintendent Kern. There are no speaker comments or cards on this item. Do any of my colleagues have questions? Mr. Hernandez, Ms. Costa, Ms. Creason?
No.
Dr. McKibben? Dr. McKibben, will you please use your mic? So I'll go. There we
On
go.
this item, we don't have to take action to put it all on the agenda. You can just do that, right? Okay, good.
My one question is there's still one pending order of business that all of our other items and maps were wrapped up on, which was an approval of a specific waiver from the Department of Education. Can you confirm that none of this timeline will impact that to the best of your knowledge?
Yeah, it shouldn't.
Okay.
We will be on the agenda for the State Board of Ed in January. And the approval of the next maps will take place after that.
Thank you for clarifying. Appreciate that. We are at item J, board reports. Are there any board reports? Mr. Hernandez.
Just a very quick, I mentioned earlier that we were able to attend Del Campo's homecoming halls, but I did not mention that we brought Super Judge, Assistant Soup, Ms. Bassinelli with us. So I think she'll probably be asked to come back. She did such a good job. So thank you.
Ms. Costa? Ms. Creason?
No report tonight. Thank you.
Dr. McKibben? I also do not have a board report at this time. We are now at item K, future agenda items. Do any board members wish to add any items to the future agenda? Seeing none. Ms. Creason?
Nope, not at this time. Thanks.
We are at item L, visitor comments. We do not have any speaker cards at this time, so we don't have any further visitor comments. We do not need to return to close the session, so we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.